Hey everybody, welcome back to another week of MRC Castings. Today I've got Pirate with me. Say hi to everybody, Pirate.
Buenos dias, everybody.
And we've got a spicy match for you this week. It's round one of the first week of Tukkayid Heat. And we've got a returning player, Matt, the Northman from the Valhalla Club podcast, playing against KoboldJesus. This week it's a stand-up fight, I do believe. And we're going to get right into the units here. All right, so this time around, in this particular lobby where I've got their units set up so we can poke around and look at them, the units are different colored. But unfortunately, Matt and KoboldJesus both ended up going with Comstar White because I think they're both playing Comstar. So we're going to have to do a little bit of creative coloring to differentiate between the two teams this time around.
It's like a blue on blue incident, but somebody ran out of colored ink.
Or we could just say it's WOB versus Comstar, which would, make sense. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with Matt's list. First unit up is going to be the Caesar, CES-3R.
I feel like that's a mech that I should know more about, but for some reason, I want to say it's like a cheap Hopman or something like that.
It's got 4 medium pulse lasers, a Gauss rifle, and an ERPPC, and it's got enough tonnage for that Gauss rifle ammo to go the distance and fire every round. And case in the right torso to protect the Gauss rifle.
So that's a snipey, but if you get in close, it can definitely smack you 70 tonner.
Yeah, and 32 heat sinks is no joke. It's pretty heat efficient. And it's 4/6 movement profile with 168 out of 217 armor points. So not max armor, but fairly well armored for a 70 tonner.
That was the lore part I was missing. It was the Federated Commonwealth's attempt to reverse engineer the cataphract and something to do with the Axemen as well.
Oh, now that you mention it, I can kind of see the profile right there. It does look quite a bit like a cataphract. All right.
But I'm looking forward to the old reliable there, the Centurion 9A. There is nothing wrong with that mech, with a big old autocannon 10, I believe.
That's right.
AC-10, LRM-10, front laser, back laser. It's got it all in a nice little 55-ton package.
That's right, and it's fairly well armored for how heavy it is. 4/6 movement profile, and it's got enough ammo to fire that AC-10 and LRM every turn and not run out. So not bad. And is this an Omni version? It says carrying capacity. Oh no, that's mag clamp. Okay, never mind.
What's your opinion of this versus the more poster child Wolverine they've been pushing out in the beginner boxes with a similar loadout?
Now, I think the Wolverine would take the cake. It's a little faster with 5.85 movement profile, if I remember correctly. And it's a little beefier and better all around. But this Centurion can reach out and touch something better than the Wolverine can. And it's got that cheeky rear laser to help stave off any backstabbers. So it's a different flavor, but it's still a good flavor.
I could run with that.
All right, next up, we've got the Crab CRB-30. This is an interesting crab. It's a laser boat like almost all crabs are, but it's got an ECM suite, and it does have an improved C3 computer, but you can see from the list here that it's not network, and there's no other C3 units, so that's a little bit of wasted tonnage, but I'll forgive it because this is a fairly well-rounded loadout. 5.8 movement profile, 28 heat sinks, 2 ER PPCs, an ER medium laser, and a small laser.
I'll disagree with you on that one. The Inner Sphere ERPPC, you need it to be able to tickle the clans, but it just seems like a waste for its heat to damage ratio. And then the Guardian ECM suite. Maybe if he was going against somebody who was using C3, but that also seems like excess battle value wrapped up in it. But the C3 not being used, I'm okay with that. It's a little extra tonnage loss, but not that much, and he's not paying the C3 tax. So I'd have preferred a different crab personally, but if he needed some long-range weaponry, I could see why he chose that one.
I don't know, maybe he's going to set up a gun line, because if I'm not mistaken, that Caesar's got a Gauss rifle, the Centurion's got the LRM-10 and the AC-10, and now this Crab has 2 ERPPCs, which it can't fire every turn, but it can cycle every other turn or so to fire both of them. One thing to note is it's 161 out of 169 armor, so it's pretty hardy for a 50-tonner, almost maxed out.
Oh, that is tanky. The crabs are always nice and durable, so shout out to Solvoth and his, hard shells. But I do enjoy a good crab, but Inner Sphere ERPPCs, they're almost an immediate auto skip for me.
They are very heat inefficient, but this mech does have the sinks to utilize them.
True.
I would prefer to see large lasers in their place, a lot more efficient. You could probably fire 4 of them for the cost of those 2 ERPPCs, but it is what it is.
That's all good. But now what's this next one here? Because I've seen that in MULs, but never actually looked at it.
So this is a Galoglass, GAL-1GLS, 70-tonner. Looks like it's got a standard fusion engine, so it's got some zombie potential, and it's got a 4.63 movement profile. Just a little bit of jump in there to give you that +2. 36 heat sinks, not bad. 192 out of 217 armor, very well armored for its tonnage. And we've got 2 medium pulse lasers, an ERPPC, and then 2 large lasers. There we go. Now we're talking. And a small laser. So another laser build. Maybe Matt learned his lesson from last time and decided to have minimal armor, or at least not ammo on every single mech. So a couple of laser boats to help mitigate the chance of ammo explosions.
So I think you're right, and I see the trebuchet later, but I think he is trying to line up some long range sniping potential here. A real sleeper on this mech though is the medium pulse lasers are in the arm. So if somebody were to try to sneak behind him with like a Dasher H, it's got 10 points of damage on a pulse laser he can still shoot him with.
Yeah, that'll be a nasty surprise for anything not moving or jumping its full movement profile, thinking it can get some easy cheeky shots in the rear arc of a 70-ton mech. So we'll see how those come into play, and if you can get close enough to utilize those medium pulse lasers effectively.
So right, we got Spider Mech here, the Tarantula, another real fun one with a 4.63 movement profile. Is this the... No, sorry, this is 8.12.8. I was like, wait, that didn't sound right. But yeah, you got it on the screen there. Yes, 8.12.8. So this is your jump 7, plus to get really nasty into someone's rear arc. 2 ER medium lasers and a streak 2. I don't like streak 2s until I realize that it kind of cheeses the cluster table where you're almost, on the SRM2, you always hit on 2s. So I do like this loadout for what it probably is, which is a backstabber / kicker. The only thing that's kind of weird about it is the armor is really, really light. So one, clan medium pulse laser and your internal, regardless of where you hit almost.
Yeah, one thing to note is that since it's a quad mech, a lot of the armor gets taken up by the legs. So you can look in the torsos, and the torsos are equally as armored as all the legs are, except for the center torso, which is slightly more armored. Which is one of the benefits of a quad mech is you give up slots, but you can carry more armor on the mech as a trade-off. So it's a little give and take. So for its tonnage, it's not terribly armored because it's 72 out of 97. But it's still a light mech that's going to drop to getting double tapped by medium pulse lasers or a large clan pulse laser or something like that.
Look at that PV though, 744 on a 4.5. You can definitely use that in your probe mission to zip up the hill, jumping the whole time. You're basically unhittable at a distance, and you can easily flip between those woods.
Yeah, definitely. And I will say it's got 20 double heat sinks, and it can only generate 12 heat, so it's perfectly sunk if it jumps for 8 and fires every single weapon every turn. So it's very efficient.
That just looks like a fun mech to play.
Yeah, actually, I was putting one together for a particular list in the future, which we may discuss at a later date. But this actual Tarantula is in that list because it's quite efficient. But that's a hint for something later down the line. So overall, Tarantula, nice little backstabber.
Oh, round it off here then with the Trebuchet 5S. Trebuchets, they're good at what they do. I think they were originally designed as a raider mech, so they're relatively fast, 5'8". They're relatively, simple intro tech weapons, medium lasers, and an SRM-6 here. I wonder if he's taking Infernos, but we'll see that in the game, because that is a nice little, trooper mech is a good phrase for it.
Yeah, he's got a 369 bracket across the board for all his weapons, and he can generate 17 heat, I do believe, with all of his weapons, and he's got 18 heat sinks, so he's almost perfectly sunk. But walking and then running every other turn to modulate your heat and dropping an SRM or a medium laser will definitely keep you nice and cool. So this is a very efficient mech. I'm interested to see how it performs, and it's quite cheap at 4.5, 984 for 3 medium lasers and 2 SRM6s. That is a steal.
One thing that you may consider, though, with piloting this is you've got 2 tons of SRM ammo. We're only going to ever play 15 turns. You might think about dumping 1 ton of ammo as soon as you get on the map, because that still gives you 7 rounds of ammo. The first 3 on these maps you won't even use. Save yourself an ammo explosion, 50% chance of it going away if you get rid of some of that.
Yeah, that's true. It's 1 more ammo bin to blow up, which then again, it's not very heavily armored, so it can lose a torso and still be functional, but it doesn't have case. So if you hit that ammo bin, this whole mech is going up.
Correct.
So yeah, definitely a consideration. Personally, I'm ride or die. I go in full ammo, but I like to live dangerously.
Nothing wrong with that, and it's all a give and take in certain situations. And you may get on the field and go, I'm going to stay protected, and I'm just going to shoot the crap out of these. But other times, I'm looking at this like, if you got a lot of long range potential, maybe you do keep that trebuchet back and just use him as a bodyguard for your gun line.
Yeah, that's not a bad call. We'll see how it's utilized in this match. All right, that was the last mech on Matt's list. We're going to move on to KoboldJesus' list, and we're going to go straight into the biggest mech in this game. It is the King Crab KGC 001. This is a nasty assault mech. 3.5 movement profile, 300 inner sphere XL engine, 295 out of 307 armor. Very heavily armored, but the kicker here is it's got 2 Gauss rifles, an LRM-15, 2 Streak 2s, which I'm not too excited about, but it's also got a large pulse laser for backup. And it's got enough Gauss rifle ammo to fire those bad boys every single turn.
So this is your typical clan buster variant leading up to 3052 in the Battle of Tukkayid, so it's actually very appropriate that the Inner Sphere has this mech and that this mech is taking part in the tournament, because this is part of what equaled the field. Those Gauss rifles could compete with the clan Gauss in the range that they bring, and they are head cappers, so it's a very thematic mech to bring, if nothing else.
Yeah, definitely. And it's got case in the left and right torso. It's not going to save the mech because it's a 300 XL, which means if you lose that torso, you lose the mech because it's an Inner Sphere XL engine. But it is there for, campaign play, I guess. So it's kind of a waste of case space, if you will. One thing to note is the LRM-15's only got 8 rounds of ammo, which is interesting. I would have preferred to see them drop a ton of SRM-2 ammo and bring an extra ton of LRM-15 ammo. But it is what it is. It's not optimized because it's a stock mech, but it's still pretty damn good for a, 30-50 turn of the century clan buster mech.
We got the Raijin here. Can't say too much about it. I've fought against these but never piloted them, and I remember them being relatively fast buggers that like to get in your rear and backstab. And those 3 medium pulse lasers on the left arm kind of says it right there on the box.
Yeah, this is a really strange loadout. I mean, I guess it's a bracket fighter because he's got an ERPPC, and then he's got all 369 weapons, or in the pulse laser's case, even shorter. The SRM6, a Streak 2, and then 3 medium pulse lasers say he wants to get in close, but that ERPPC says he wants to stand back and poke a little bit first.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with talking about the potential for dashers. The inner sphere bringing medium pulse lasers is a smart choice.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's a 696 movement profile, so the 6 jump will definitely help out. And since it's not a 7 jump, it's not that pricey for what you get at 3-4. He's 1782 battle value with a 3-4 pilot. Not bad. Not a bad deal for what you get. He can't quite jump and shoot the ERPPC every turn, but he can jump and shoot all those pulse lasers, and maybe the Streak 2, and still be heat neutral. All right, next up, we've got the Raptor RTX-1-OC. It's a little 25-tonner, 711, so almost your Locust profile there. Got 12 double heat sinks, so 24 total, 175 Inner Sphere XL engine, 56 out of 89 armor, which means this thing is paper. Any big weapon hitting you, and you're going down. But holy Moses, that's a lot of lasers.
So, if I'm reading this right, it's got 30 plus inner sphere is probably 6. What's that? 36 heat it can generate?
I think so. It's only got 24 heat sinks total, so it's got 2, 4, plus another 10, 3, 6, 16, 19, 20. It looks like it can generate 23 heat, I do believe, just from the
Oh, medium lasers, not ER mediums. Okay, 23 heat. That sounds more reasonable. So with 23 potential heat and 24, you can still fire everything, and that's a lot of potential rolls. So do like that one. I love medium laser boats. You know, another shout out to the Hunchback 4P. Anything that can just roll lots of dice and get 555 here and there is a win. So this Raptor at 957 for a 4-4 is actually looks like a lot of fun to pilot as well.
Oh yeah, it's a sway back in Locust form. That is not bad for how maneuverable it is. You got to be careful with it though. It's got pretty much no armor. If it gets tagged by anything bigger than a pulse laser, even then it's probably going to go down.
Speed is life. You go slow, you die.
Very true. It does have AMS though, so that might help if there's any LRMs coming its way.
That'll also be the one thing that explodes with ammo and blacks out your pilot.
Also true, when there's no case to be had. Alright, next up is a nasty little bugger. It's the Venom SDR-9K. It's basically a spider with pulse lasers, from my understanding. I've used one before. It's got paper-thin armor. It's got an 812-8 movement profile with a 280 XL engine and 62 out of 119 armor, which means it's basically a Locust that can jump for 8, and you've got 4 medium pulse lasers, but the drawback is you've only got 12 heat sinks with an 8 jump. So if you want to stay neutral, you're only firing 1 of those medium pulse lasers. So you're going to have to get toasty in this boy to get any real use out of it.
That's okay. That's a good jumper, pusher, and general harasser. And is this the one with, yep, medium pulse lasers? So you've got your hands free to pick up a club if you really want it to be, you know, goofy with it. But I really like this mech for what it is.
Oh yeah, I've used it to pretty good effect. You're just always going to be riding that heat curve with this mech. You can jump in, unload, and then jump out because your your jump movement is not affected by overheating, and then cool off for a turn if necessary. That way you can get some pretty nasty alpha strikes in rear arcs or side arcs if necessary. It's a pretty damn good backstabber, and pretty cheap as well. 3-4 at just over 1,050 battle value. And last but definitely not least, we've got an urban mech UM-R63. Good old Irby here. This one is a standard 232 snail movement profile. It's got 96 out of 105 armor, so it's a good bit tankier than the last two mechs we looked at by like 50%. But it's not going to be generating any TMM with that movement profile. This is the LBX-10 Irby, so this one is quite useful. It's got a small laser and a small pulse laser for backup, with 10 rounds of LB-10X ammo.
That's alright. -1 to hit. You're going to stand still most of the time probably with it. So it's your nice little scatter shot weapon from range to try to crit seek or get a lucky head BB.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a good little companion mech for that King Crab, because the King Crab's going to be outpacing it, but not by that much.
You know, now that you say that, look at it. He's got a... I do like lists that are not, you know, all symmetrical. So he's got 2 slow boys, and then 3 fairly maneuverable fast guys.
Yeah, definitely. That Venom is going to be playing havoc around the map if he jumps around every turn. And the Raptor is basically a locust speed. So, and the Raigen's not a pushover either, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 696 movement profile. So he can get around the map and set up shop with the King Crab and his little urban mech buddy, and just rain down fire from afar while the Raigen, Raptor, and Venom run circles around the enemy. With that being said, I do like Matt's list though. He's fairly well balanced. He's got 2 70-tonners, 2 50-tonners, or sorry, 3 50-tonners, and the 25-ton Tarantula to be a little nuisance and backstab. He's got a pretty good gun line. Not one of these mechs, other than the Tarantula, of course, is fairly thin armored. I'm a little worried about the Trebuchet, depending on what maps they pick, especially because it's no man's land in the middle map due to being Grasslands 1. So he's going to have to really hide behind those trees to get close and close the distance with that Trebuchet to get some use out of it.
So we got a pretty, you know, likely to stand still gun line against a relatively maneuverable list, Sans the Crab. I think this will be an interesting one.
Yeah, I do too. Let's go ahead and get into it.
They're all the same color.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. So we're going to have to just kind of draw on them a bit if possible, and try and differentiate them for you as best as possible. So
it's alright, you end at the urban mech, and then you start new from there.
Alright, so here we are getting into the deployment zone. Looks like Matt's setting up on the east side of the map, and KoboldJesus is on the west side.
So, if you look at the way this list is built out, KoboldJesus picking a relatively neutral map, he probably wants to get up there as fast as possible, where Matt looks like he picked some hilly terrain to try to set up his gun line. So this will be a kind of storming the beaches scenario.
Yeah, I'm a little confused as to why Matt picked this map, or at least positioned his mechs where he did. It's going to take him at least 2 to 3 turns to get his mechs up and out of his map into the middle. Now, it's not that big of a deal because this first match is a stand-up fight, and KoboldJesus has 0 cover on his side other than some forests. So more than likely, KoboldJesus is going to be running up the map, would be my guess, because there's 0 reason to stay on his map.
Another little fun fact is when you choose the map layout east to west, you have to run through the middle of the map for a straight line. If they were to do north to south, you could run in a vertical straight line down the middle. And there's probably some mathematicians out there that can say that, staying on the edge of the map, just going straight, is probably more economical than running to the middle than running to the other edge again.
Yeah, definitely. You can see that line of clear terrain going all the way up the right side there of the maps. But unfortunately, they chose to go, well, fortunately for us, because it's easier to see the whole map, they chose to go horizontal. So I'll take it.
Correct. It does fit on a monitor a little more nicely, unless you have one of those that tilts.
Yeah, I'm not going to tilt my monitor, unfortunately. All right, so this is where they deployed. Let's go ahead and get into the first sets of movement. All right, looks like Matt is moving up his crab in the bottom right to the middle of his map. That's a pretty good distance for turn 1.
Well, he's got that alley that he can zip up, which his Caesar's going to follow.
Yeah, it may not take him quite as long as I was expecting to get out of his map, or at least to get to the edge of his map and set up his gun line. But, that being said, KoboldJesus has nothing but open terrain in front of him, so he'll be able to close the distance fairly quickly.
Agreed, he's just got to do that whole zip into the middle of the map, then zip to a side again.
Yeah, and you're right, here comes the Caesar right up behind that crab. And moving out first for KoboldJesus is that Raptor. Looks like it just did a straight shot forward. Didn't go too far. I guess he doesn't want to, outpace the rest of his units too soon. Because that's a fast little bugger, if I remember correctly.
Maybe he's looking for walking speed. Is he the one with the large lasers?
I don't think so. I think the Raptor has, it's got the ERPPC, maybe.
Gotcha. Yeah, he's still too far away to use it. Oh no, it's just mediums.
It's all mediums and small pulls. Yeah, never mind. He's just probably waiting to close the distance with the rest of his units.
Well, I could see that because I'm guilty of throwing my fastest mechs away by rushing them upfield with no support. So maybe he's doing some positioning and waiting for those other mechs to be able to support him.
I think we're all guilty of doing that at one point.
Or repeatedly.
Or last night.
This is why if you take all assault mechs, it's a lot easier for them to walk together.
That's right, you gotta mitigate the chance of you running everything up the field too soon and dying without the rest of your team. So Matt's just moving the Centurion up, not really much to talk about, just making his way through the terrain he picked for his map. And here's the Venom moving up with the Raptor. Doesn't even look like he moved all that far. That's what, maybe 5-6 hexes?
Yeah, there's obviously intention there. That's probably its maximum walking speed.
Maybe. He's an 8-12-8 if I remember correctly. So he could maybe go a little bit further. I'm not sure what hex he started in exactly. But, and I'm not going to go back to find out. So we'll just keep moving. Next up is the Gallo Glass. We're going to try and speed through some of these early moves because I highly doubt there's going to be any firing for the time being.
No, you're right. It'll essentially be, by the way it looks now, Matt's going to run through the canyons towards some of those hilly features at the edge of his map. And KoboldJesus is going to, I guess, start positioning for his moves into the woods over there in the middle of the map as you've circled.
Yeah, that's a good call there. Let's go ahead and fast forward a little bit through this. There's the King Crab scooching up. There's the Caesar scooching up. There's the Raijin coming down a little bit, not quite making the full run. And there's the Urban Mech scooching up a bit. And the Gallo Glass moved up as much as it could. And it doesn't look like there's any firing for this turn.
Yeah, he's keeping his mechs together. The movement profile of the King Crab is probably dictating how fast he moves everything.
Yeah, that's not a bad choice. I like that decision to stay grouped, especially considering, as you can see here, Matt has a nice little 3-pack in the north and a 3-pack in the south. I like this little setup, splitting your units, but keeping them together in a bunch. That way you can open up some opportunities, maybe for that tarantula to backstab. So since Matt has more units than KoboldJesus, he has to move 2 for his first turn. So he just moves the Centurion up a little bit more and the Caesar up a little bit more, who was previously in the rear.
So since I've got a similar list where it's long-range weapons, I definitely see what Matt's trying to do there, which, in retrospect is obvious for most people. He's trying to get on those hills to build that gun line so he can have that cover to oversee the middle of Grasslands 1. And I guarantee anybody who's bringing a Rifleman 2C, anybody bringing an LRM boat, anybody with the RPPCs, they're going to do the same thing where they're going to try to find elevated woods, so they can just rain down on the middle of the map.
Yeah, or a nice little hill to hide behind, like maybe right here. It's kind of hard to get this angle perfectly to avoid this hill here.
Between the two, I'd rather have a hill than woods. I always look for woods, but I'd rather have a hill than woods because it still gives you +1 defense from the front, and also your legs are saved if you did get hit there somewhere.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I'd take partial cover over light woods any day of the week. You know what? I've always been confused about that. If you're occupying a woods hex, do you get the woods as cover?
If you are in the woods, you are using the woods as cover, but you're shooting out of them, so your opponent has a penalty to shoot you who is occupying, but you who are occupying and shooting out of them don't pay a penalty.
Really? Because I always thought that you don't count the hex you're in when it comes to woods. But maybe that's only if the opponent's on elevation, or the person who's shooting at you is on elevation.
Oh, no, so if you're in woods, you don't get a penalty for shooting out of woods.
No, that I understand. But I thought that if you were in woods, the opponent doesn't get the penalty as well. It's only if there is intervening woods. Because every time I pull up the little distance thing, it only gives intervening when it comes to shots. It doesn't count occupying.
Oh, correct, yes, because it'll tell you intervening, but you are correct. It won't tell you occupying because Megamech probably can't tell if you're occupying or not, because what if you're a VTOL at height 6 or something?
Well, it does have the little checkbox that says is mech when you do that. So if there's two mechs shooting at each other, usually that you just check that little checkbox, and it should tell you what is in between your line. It'll tell you if the target should have partial cover or cover from the woods. And whenever I do it on a unit that's occupying woods, it never counts that set of woods that they're in. So I'm gonna have to pull up the rulebook later to double check, because this is one that I've heard go both ways, where yes, you get cover if you're in woods, and also no, you don't get cover for the hex that you're occupying, only surrounding woods.
Definitely one to check out. My strong opinion will be you get cover for occupying, but we'll see what Megamech and the rulebook says, because Megamech, while I enjoy that it's usually correct, there are things like semi-guided that it doesn't do right, so always worth going back to the rules.
Yeah, Megamech is a great resource, and 99 to 99.9% of the time it's going to get the rules right, but there are some things that it does not do correctly. All right, let's get into a little bit more movement. Raijin's moving up into a heavy woods. Crab moved up a little bit after the Caesar and Centurion moved up.
One thing that KoboldJesus could do here is to measure the distance from that level 2 ridge and see what his longest range weapon is, and then he knows that, well, as long as I don't move, into that range, I don't have to worry about being shot, because realistically, Matt's not going to move in front of his hills.
No, I doubt it. At least not right now. Maybe later if he can pick off some of these fast jumpy boys, and then he goes to hunt down the King Crab and the Urban Mech later on. But that's nowhere near where we're at in this match. And there's the King Crab creeping up. There's the Trebuchet going down, not quite going laterally across the field, but just getting to the middle of the map. And there's the Urban Mech trailing behind the King Crab, watching his rear. Not a bad use of the Urban Mech.
The Urban Mech, doesn't he jump 2?
Yeah, he runs for 3 and then walks and jumps for 2. So he's gonna get outpaced by that King Crab eventually, but he can still cover its rear arc, and he's got the LB-10X, so it's not terrible.
I don't think I've ever seen another mech that jumps 2, so that'll be interesting.
I'm sure there's some sort of assault mech that's only got 2 jump jets just to get it out of mud or whatever. But now we've got the Gallo Glass moving up. He's up on level 2 behind a level 3 hill, so maybe he'll be able to get a shot off with that ERPPC if KoboldJesus moves a little too close. Which, now that he jumped or ran the Venom up into that woods hex, maybe he will get shot this turn.
If he jumped far enough and into woods with woods in front of him as well, he's untouchable with Gunnery 4 pilots.
Yeah, I agree. that's one thing about Matt's list. He's got more mechs, but they're all 4/5 pilots. Whereas KoboldJesus did spend the extra battle value to get almost all of his mechs down to a 3 gunnery, I think, except for the Raptor, which is a 4/4. All right, and it looks like movement's almost coming to a close. The Tarantula definitely jumped up to get into some forests. He's perfectly safe because there's heavy woods and light woods in front of him.
Oh, that Tarantula is moving upfield, so he might try to harass and confuse and break up that line a little bit while Matt's gun line gets up there.
Yeah, maybe he's going to run interference on that Venom and that Raptor to keep them from closing the gap too soon, threatening their rear arcs, which they definitely cannot take a medium pulse laser to the rear. And it looks like we do have one line of fire. That has got to be an ERPPC on that crab from downtown.
I bet he's firing at the woods because there's no way that could hit.
Maybe it's on 12s. I think he is a 3 pilot. Let's take a look. There's the first turn, and here's the second turn. No, that wasn't a crab.
That's a good shot then.
Yep, needed boxcars. Only rolled a 7 though. So
if you roll enough dice,
eventually you're going to roll 12. All right, looks like Matt wins initiative for the next round. All right, the urban mech looks like, I guess it had to jump for 2 because it doesn't have the movement to go through light woods and to heavy woods in one turn, anyways.
Now I can just hear the exhaust kind of like sputtering and backfiring as it gets up into the air.
All right, Centurion moving up through that little canyon behind level 1 cover currently. He's got some long-range weapons, so expect him to poke out against that Venom and Raptor if they come out from behind those woods.
Not my favorite position for the Centurion. I hope he turns and goes north by 2 hexes into a elevated wood hex, but we'll see which way that plays out.
Yeah, I'd like to see him either on that elevated wood hex or one up and then one to the left on that wooded hex behind level 1 cover. That way you get partial cover and the woods cover, if it works the way I think it does.
True.
All right, Caesar and Trebuchet moving up. Trebuchet is adjacent to the Centurion. Looks like they're setting up the gun line, but that Trebuchet doesn't really have any guns that can reach out and touch anything.
No, that's the bodyguard.
Yeah, the Caesar, on the other hand, up on this level 3 hill, or level 2 hill, I do believe. Sorry, behind woods, can reach out and touch things with its Gauss rifle, though. But because there's woods in front of it, it's going to be not a great shot. Oh, and the Venom jumps quite close. He's closing the distance in a hurry, and he's outpacing the rest of his mechs like we were worried about earlier. So we'll see if the Raptor comes to back up the Venom. But as it stands now, I think it's vulnerable to getting blasted, not necessarily by the Centurion or the Trebuchet, but definitely by that Gallowglass, depending on where it goes, and the Caesar. Although that might be 3 woods if we'll have to check when it comes to firing lines. So he might not be targetable because he's in heavy woods and there's a light in front of him.
I need to brush up on my LBX-10 rage brackets, but it looks like only 6 more turns until the urban mech is in range.
Better late than never, I guess.
So the only thing I'm worried about is that Venom getting behind the Trebuchet, who only has 575 rear torso armor. So, and the Centurion can't be too, far behind that. So that has a potential to be a problem for Matt.
Yeah, definitely. If they stay close to each other, they can cover each other's rears. And especially with the Gallowglass going up the rear.
The Gallowglass with his pulse lasers would be a good way to cover from backstabbers, just like the Raijin would on KoboldJesus's list. But I think that Caesar's starting to get a little too far behind to use its pulses.
Yeah, definitely. He does have the Gauss rifle, so he doesn't really need to close the distance, at least not anytime soon. The Crab did come over the hill and drop down to level 0, but he's behind enough woods that he should be safe, regardless of where KoboldJesus moves. Oh, that's... yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, that's...
So the Raptor runs up, and is sitting in a field waiting for everybody to shoot at him. Granted, he probably ran for, 10 or 11 hexes, or maybe, but you still don't want to be out in the open when there's a forest. You could have stopped short and got an extra +1 to your modifier behind. There's no reason to be here. Absolutely no reason to be right there right now.
Well, but he might have played it, look at it this way, if he can get a modifier of 3, and Matt's pilots are on 4s or at 7, Matt's pilots probably ran everything this turn, you're at 9s, put it at medium range, at a minimum, that's 11s. He's probably okay. I agree with you 100%, but he's probably okay this turn.
Yeah, you're right. The odds are in his favor, but
why risk it for one hex? Yeah.
Yeah, why give him the shots at all? Believe me, I've been hit with the opponent needing 12s on the first turn, and they hit the 12, and then they hit a 12 on the cluster roll and take out half of one of my mechs with an LRM 20 from downtown. So it can and it does happen. Next up, it looks like the Tarantula is getting a little bit closer, staying in the forest cover. And the King Crab moves up, outpacing his Urban Mech bodyguard by a good bit now.
So I do like the way that they're positioning this match. No one is really just sitting in their deployment map. So I can appreciate that Tarantula causing havoc in the middle of the game there.
Yeah, definitely. And it looks like the Gallowglass did not move. So he is sitting pretty up top in his little sniper nest. Let's get into the lines of fire. Oh, yeah, look at that. Even if you're rolling on 12s, you don't want to see that.
No, you don't. Because that's at least 2 shots. That's a Gauss from the Gallowglass probably, and the Centurion on the LRM-10, the Crab on the RPPC.
Yeah, probably both the RPPCs this turn. I mean, why not?
True.
And the King Crab, that's got to be those 2 Gauss rifles from downtown. More than likely bad numbers, but smoke them if you got them, especially because you have the ammo to fire every turn. Why not? So
let's see what the rolls tell us.
Oh, look, there it is. 12s across the board.
Oh, no. Oh, that's a Raptor firing.
Wait, never mind. Yeah, that's the Raptor. Oh, hey, what do you know?
Hey, well, 5 damage to the Trebuchet. Good job, little Raptor.
Wait a minute. Wasn't that Trebuchet behind cover?
Yes, he was, but that cover just... No, it's a clear shot.
Look at that. We found the perfect angle.
So that's center hex to center hex. Maybe that's why he moved there, so he had multiple shots.
Yeah, even on 12s, I guess. I mean, he got lucky. 1 hit, but you don't want to gamble that every single turn.
Paid off for him, though.
Yep, everything else missed across the board, needing 10s and 12s and 11s. So he's sitting pretty, drawing first blood with that laser to the leg on the Trebuchet. All right, looks like KoboldJesus wins initiative next turn. All right, here we are after firing, and here we are after Matt's first move. Centurion moves up. Oh, hey, he did what I was hoping he would. Just moved up these 2 X's into that level 1 behind forest.
Basically, he's barkeep with a nice counter in front of him and serving up death.
With a palm tree for some shade. All right, Matt's next move is interesting. He brings the Caesar all the way to the southern side of the map, facing the south side. Maybe his Gauss rifle's in his right arm or right torso, and he'll be able to torso twist and get some shots off. But he's on level 0 behind level 1 cover with a lot of force in between him and everything else.
I bet you what happened is he got spooked by the King Crab taking that pot shot and felt the need to put some woods between them.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. No one wants to see 2 trash can sized shells going right by their face. All right, KoboldJesus' first move is a bold jump in the Urban Mech for 2, or maybe possibly running it for 3, although I think with turning facing, that has to be a jump because there was a forest there. You wouldn't have had the movement to make it out.
It's okay. The Urban Mech's, I don't want to say he's a joke, but he is an initiative sink, and you notice he got moved first, so that was the right move.
And he should be getting moved first pretty much every turn. And next up, it looks like the Gallowglass moves a little bit more to the north, still up on a little level 1 hill, but he's behind level 2 cover this time. He's got some forests in the way, though, so he might not have the best of shots this turn. Oh, the Raijin runs up right to the rear of the Venom, following in his footsteps.
That's a good defensive move because that heavy woods in the middle means that he's got some cover from where the trebuchet currently is and everything south of it. But it seems like maybe that was the best move he had, but I hope he's going towards like wood hopping with his jump jets before he just goes berserk with those lasers.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely probably going to end up being safe from that trebuchet this turn, or give the trebuchet really terrible shots because of that heavy woods. It's not too quick, but it is decently fast for a medium. He's saving his fast boys. Looks like for last. We'll have to see what he moves next. And Matt moves the crab back a little bit. Playing a little defensive here.
Yeah, this is very confusing. You had a pretty good gun line starting to be set up. But again, I think he realized that King Crab was a threat, but you've got more threat than he does.
Yeah, that King Crab is going to be a threat that you can't really deal with without closing the distance. I mean, yeah, you could trade 2-for-1 Gauss rifle rounds with it, but I don't think those numbers are going to be in your favor in the long run.
Well, not only that, the Gallo Glass is so far north compared to basically your southern grouping. Maybe this is a divide and conquer strategy, but it's going to be where KoboldJesus can just choose to go obliterate one half of his forces.
That is true. The only saving grace is that there is quite a big forest in the way, so the Crab and the Caesar are very safe right now from anything other than maybe that Raptor running down and trying to pursue them, which I don't think would be good for the Raptor's health because there's quite a bit of firepower between those two mechs. But you know what? I don't hate this setup. In fact, I think I kind of like it. The Trebuchet's in the middle. You got the Centurion and the Gallo Glass up north, and you got the Crab and the Caesar on the south, and you've got the Tarantula out front, threatening rear arcs already, just within the first 3 turns. That Trebuchet can move north or south to cover any commitment that KoboldJesus might make with his units. And because most of them are currently leaning to the north end of the map, and that Trebuchet is slightly more north, he's more likely to be able to cover the north section if the Venom and the Raptor try to make a run for the Centurion or the Gallo Glass currently.
I'll give a counter argument. The King Crab is only going to walk the rest of the way up the map, so it gets -1, compared to running to shoot. And this is setting up for his speedy fast boys, the Raptor, the Venom, and the Raijin, to just cut up north really fast and go after those mechs with ammo and rear arcs, while the Caesar and Crab are kind of stuck, and the Tarantula is lost, slightly confused in midfield. So I think I get what you're saying on he's made a nice defensive line, but I think that's kind of like when you go to a restaurant, you look at the menu and you're confused, like, wait, they got tacos and burgers and chicken salads and, focus on one or the other. So I hope KoboldJesus leans real hard into ganking that Centurion in the next 2 turns.
Yeah, like I said, he can hard commit and bring the numbers to bear, which, I mean, at that point, it'd be a 3-on-3 Gallo Glass, Centurion, and Trebuchet. But you do have the long-range fire support coming in from that Crab, whereas the King Crab, mind you, whereas the Crab and the Caesar down here on the south are out of the fight for the time being.
That's true.
All right, moving along, King Crab wiggles up a little bit closer, behind a little bit of tree cover, and the Trebuchet moves north to cover the Centurion. Or more like to have the Centurion cover it, because it's now closer to the enemies than the Centurion is.
So what would you do if you were in Matt's shoes at this point?
Ooh, and we get the Raptor moving right up to the Centurion in face-kicking range.
Oh my gosh, that's fairly aggressive.
Yeah, I don't think I like that. Yeah, you've got a little bit of forest cover from the Gallo Glass right here, but you're point blank with that Centurion and basically point blank for that Trebuchet because he's got a 369 profile across the board, if I remember correctly.
Does he though? The Gallo Glass, I think, might have a 2 levels of hills between it. If that's a level 3 and they're both on level 1.
Oh, that's true. It actually, yeah, it's crossing that level 3. They're both on level 1, so he might not have line of fire on the Gallo Glass, but I don't think he needs it because that Trebuchet and Centurion are point blank. The LB-10X does not have a minimum range, if I remember correctly.
But the Trebuchet can't hit it with all of its SRM6s in the middle because its arc is facing the wrong way, and those are torso-mounted SRMs, I do believe.
I think you're right, yeah. Oh, wait, maybe... Is it? I thought the Trebuchet might be in the arms. Hang on. Left arm, right torso.
Left arm. Okay, so he can bring the left arm to bear for an SRM6 and a medium laser. I wonder if there is precision ammo in that Centurion on that ace. Wait, you said it was LBX. I'm sorry. No, it's an AC.
Oh, it's a regular AC-10. Ooh, that's even scarier if he's got precision ammo in there.
So if he does, then that Raptor is going to have a lot of dice thrown at him, and he's going to have to hope that 4 plus running plus modifier, you're at 9s already. So there's only a 30% chance every weapon that will hit you, but with at least 5 weapons coming your way, it's pretty good odds that 1 or 2 of those will hit, and he does not have the armor to take that.
No, he does not, especially considering if he has precision ammo on that LB-10, I'm sorry, on that AC-10, he's only going to need 7s, and I don't think that Raptor can take 10 damage anywhere.
Correct.
All right, well, the last 2 mechs to move were, holy crap, the Tarantula.
Oh, this is getting into a very aggressive game already. I'm loving it.
Yeah, this is a very early Conga line right here. Granted, there's only 2 more mechs to move. This is Matt's last move of the turn, but I can only imagine that Venom is going to come around and continue the Conga line. I just don't see it hard committing like the Raptor did now that the Tarantula is in the rear arc of the Raijin. I think he has to commit to damaging this Tarantula.
Something else that I learned recently is now that Raijin, are those pulse lasers in its arms?
Let's take a peek. That's not a Raijin. Yes.
That is.
They're all in the left arm, so he can just torso twist and blast them with 3 medium pulse lasers.
Well, that, or he probably doesn't have lower arm actuators, so he could probably arm flip. Not that there's much difference between torso twisting and arm flipping in this case, but he could arm flip, and when you arm flip, you do not take a penalty for firing to the rear if that's your only shot.
That is correct.
Oh, look at that Venom.
And yep, there I knew it. He had to continue the Conga line. The call of the rear arc is just too strong.
We'll let you comment below on what you would paraphrase call of the rear arc to, but please make it YouTube safe.
Okay, here's the lines of fire. Like we mentioned earlier, that Centurion and that Trebuchet are unloading onto the Raptor. Raptor unloading onto the Centurion, and I didn't
think about that Gallo Glass having a shot on the Venom. I hope he jumped or he did some skilled footwork to get a modifier, because that is not a very big one.
I agree completely. If he jumped for 3, that is not a good look for the Venom. If he ran around and only got a modifier of 2, that's even worse. That could be very dangerous for that Venom. But on the other hand, you do get the Irby bringing his LBX to bear, finally getting some use out of him. We'll see what the numbers look like real soon.
Uh-oh. Those numbers don't look good already. I'm seeing red, and you didn't even get past the first shot.
Okay, so one thing to note, he needs 9s on that AC-10. That means it's not precision ammo, because he also needs 9s on that medium laser. So he just straight up blasted him for 10 damage, and what did we say? 10 damage anywhere is going to go internal?
Yeah, that's 2 engine hits. That thing is in force withdrawal before it even got a chance to really do much.
His rebuttal onto the Centurion isn't terrible, connecting with almost everything except for 1 medium laser. And he gets a little head hit on the Centurion.
You
There's
know,
2 medium lasers as well. So
that head hit is good though. If he does get a chance to kick him, he's got a 1 in 6 chance of dealing 5 damage. He could go internal next turn.
oh yeah, he could kill him outright if he gets that kickoff, if he stays standing. Weapons fire for the Venom nails the Tarantula in the center torso rear and the right torso rear. Goes internal on the right torso, but doesn't find any crit fruit.
And the Galaglass, we got real excited about that shot, but it didn't amount to anything here.
One thing to note, he went full bore with those medium pulse lasers on that Venom. He fired all 4, needing only 6s, and he only hit with 2. So he's rolling under par here, which is not good. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it, so that's a big oof. But yeah, the Galaglass misses across the board.
Oh, Irby needed 12s, and he continued to stay useless, but the Tarantula, though, into the rear of the Raijin, only got 1 hit. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, definitely. So it was a hard commitment from the Tarantula and a hard commitment from the Venom, and they got a little bit of rear armor shaved off, but nothing really concrete. Nothing that I would say would be worth the commitment there, especially on the Venom, because now that thing is way overheated.
On the Raijin, 3 medium pulse lasers. I was excited about this, but 2 snake eyes. You know, you got a boxcar, but then 2 snake eyes. So this is the point where if you're playing in a game store, you go to the front desk and purchase another set of dice.
Yeah, and you throw your existing dice either back into your dice bag of shame or in the trash. Okay, this is not good. Trebuchet nails the Raptor with the medium laser on 10s and blows off his right arm, and 2 damage transfers to the center torso, which destroys the engine, I guess, somehow?
So, you know why? Is because the section was destroyed. The right torso is what got hit. It blew the right arm off because it was attached to that torso, but that's
right.
an XL engine mech.
Very true. Okay, now it makes sense to me. I'm like, why would he get destroyed by only taking 2 damage to the CT? But yeah, section destroyed on the right torso does it. Correct. My bad. So that is first blood for Matt. Swinging pretty hard early on punishing what I would consider an overextension of that Raptor very early on.
I can't say I blame Kobold, though, because it's one of those, if this pays off, and he probably saw where that Galaglass couldn't shoot him, and it would be fairly high numbers to hit. Unfortunately, like we said, throw enough dice, and that got him.
Yep, just happened to hit him early in the match instead of later. Getting into the fisticuffs portion. Okay, well, the Centurion made his piloting check for taking more than 20 damage, but getting into physical phase, the Tarantula kicks the Raijin and takes 5 damage to the right leg. Nothing to write home about. And the Venom goes for punches on the Tarantula, needing 9s. That means it should have needed only 7s for the kick, correct?
Correct, and I think the reason he went with punches is did that Venom get into rear right torso armor on the Tarantula? I think it did, so
Yes,
a punch would have had a better chance of critting something.
Now, that's an interesting question. It is a quad mech. It doesn't have arms. When you roll on the punch table, can you only hit the 3 torsos? Or do you hit the front legs and the 3 torsos?
I certainly... Well, I think you would hit the arms, which would be the front legs. But that is a good question, because if you can only hit the torsos, that greatly limits the amount of times I want to take a quad mech.
But it also makes it... Yeah, I don't think it would be that... They would do that to make it that detrimental to quad mechs. They already have enough drawbacks as is, like torso twist.
But if you're punching on the front legs, then then I'm imagining like the Venom like leaning over the Tarantula to try to punch it in the front legs, and that's going to get goofy really fast.
Yeah. We'll have to look up if there's any special interaction there. If not, then I'm just going to assume that a punch would hit the front left and right leg, just like it would have left and right arm. The Raijin fails his piloting check after getting kicked and falls. Needs a 4, rolls a 3. So the dice are definitely not going KoboldJesus' way right now.
Yeah, that's just real difficult to see.
Yeah, at least he made his seatbelt check. That Venom is already up to 6 heat, so he's going to be taking, I think, a piling check penalty and maybe, a movement penalty and maybe a gunnery penalty. I'm not quite sure.
Oh, he's behind. He's under 9 on the gunnery penalty, so he'll be fine there. He will take a piloting, or now you got me saying it. He will take a movement penalty on moving, but he's a Venom. He's going to jump, so jumps aren't affected by the movement penalty.
True. He can jump for, 6 and then clear all of his heat this turn, or jump for 8 and only clear 4.
Correct. And personally, I would jump 8, use those pulse lasers, jump again, and then cool off somewhere.
Yeah, not a bad call. Utilize those heat sinks, baby. All right, so that does it for turn 4. Getting into turn 5, it looks like KoboldJesus is going to win initiative this time. So Matt will be moving first. Let's get into the state of the game. Now that Raptor's dead, let's take a look at what we got here. Alrighty.
First thing we got is a giant corpse next to that Centurion.
Yep. We said it earlier. I don't know if that's the play with that Raptor. Going into point-blank range against that many weapons is a risky move with a mech that's that paper-thin armored.
So one thing to look at here from the way the mechs are disposed, that urban mech is trailing. That King Crab is trailing. And we've got this weird pocket of the Caesar and the Crab down in the bottom right. This is spread all over the place. Yeah, so down there in the bottom right, we got the Caesar and the Crab just kind of chilling. We've got the King Crab. Down there at the bottom left, we got the Caesar and the Crab hanging out. We've got the King Crab and the Urban Mech in the top left. We've got this Raijin with the Tarantula and Venom clustered around the middle of the map. And then that unfortunate brawl with the Centurion and the Trebuchet and the remainder of Matt's mech there with the Galilast up in the top in a sniper nest. So they're all wide mechs. That's already confusing, but they're all spread out in this confused part of the map. So I'm sure there's some logic to this, but it's very difficult to go over a grand strategy when it looks like we just have a lot of singular battles happening at once.
Yeah, the Crab and the Caesar are currently out of the fight. The Centurion and Trebuchet are set up in a nice little defensive position with level 1 cover. The Galloglass is up on a level 1 hill, so we can see the entire map with perfect level 2 cover. I doubt he'll be moving from there anytime soon. The Tarantula's in the thick of it. He needs to either jump him out or move him last, since he did win initiative this turn. Matt can utilize that Tarantula as a backstabber if he wants, or get it to cover and keep it safe for later. All right, let's get into some of these turns here. All right, so first up, it looks like Matt moves the Crab out. Oh, I'll take that back. Matt did not win initiative this time. And then he moves the Caesar up shortly behind it. So Crab moves out and the Caesar moves out. They're coming out of their little hidey hole to join the fight.
Realistically, they'll need to, though, because that's a lot of firepower that's getting blocked by line of sight from those trees on the ground.
Yeah, definitely. Something tells me that KoboldJesus isn't going to move anything into that line of fire between that Crab and that Caesar. If anything, he might pull back. That way he's got more forest cover and make Matt come to him. All right, looks like KoboldJesus' first move is scooching that Urban Mech up just a little bit.
Do you think that Urban Mech is an initiative sink, or do you think it's actually a valued member of the team?
Considering he just scooched it up into the middle of an open field, I'm going to say initiative sync. Although it does have that AC 10, so it can reach out and touch something.
True. Maybe he's trying to get a line of fire across the middle of the map there, because from where he's at, he can almost see all the way to the Trebuchet and the Crab. If he were to move one more turn up, he'd have a pretty good open field with just a little bit of intervening woods.
Yeah, if he can run for all 3 hexes, he'll be perfectly fine and have a pretty good field of fire. He'll be able to maybe reach that Galloglass in the back. Speaking of which, the Galloglass and the Centurion both moved up slightly. Centurion coming out of cover and Galloglass staying on the hill, but also mostly coming out of cover. There's a little bit of a hill covering half the hex, but I don't think it's enough to give him cover from most of the units, especially if they can just scooch up north just a little bit. All right, and it looks like the king crab scooches into the forest over here, giving himself some cover, but also kind of, I don't really want to say trapping himself because it's so slow, but not giving him any options for maneuverability. That tarantula can probably jump right behind it.
Additionally, that crab, maybe he's trying to get into the cover because he's slow, but he might be trying to line up. Look at the way his torso is facing. He might be trying to line up to go charge against the Gallowlass or the Centurion if it completes its turning maneuver.
Oh, okay. That's fair. It's also probably got a decent line of sight to that Gallowglass. And that Centurion, from the looks of it, maybe 2 forests, maybe 3. Maybe it's blocked.
He's got Gauss rifles, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's got 2 Gauss rifles on this bad boy.
So there you go. If he can stay there in the heavy woods, let's assume he's min-maxing against the Gallowlass. If he's in the heavy woods and he stands still, that negates the moving for going into those light woods. Then the Gallowlass and the Centurion would both have 1 for intervening and 2 for heavy woods. So he's got a +3 modifier just to sit there.
Yeah, he would be untargetable, I think, by most units, because heavy woods and a light should block all shots, doesn't it?
That's intervening. He can still get +3 and be shot at because he's occupying the woods. But if it was intervening, like a heavy woods and a light woods between them, then yes, he wouldn't be able to see them. But since he's occupying the heavy woods, he should be able to shoot out.
Ah, okay. All right. I see. I always got confused with that one. All right. Next up, it looks like the trebuchet comes out of the little perch and moves up into that forest. So he's got a little bit of cover, but he's losing his partial cover for the forest cover, which is, I guess, equal. Although the partial cover does block leg shots.
True, but he's at least getting in range of his medium lasers and short range, possibly.
Also true. That Raijin has not moved yet. He might be dangling the carrot. You never know. That Venom and that Raijin can maybe get to the back of that trebuchet or the Centurion. Although it would expose them to the Caesar, Crab, and Gallowglass for return fire. Whoa, okay. Looks like the Raijin just kind of turns slightly. It wasn't prone, was it?
I don't think it was prone.
Oh, it was prone.
So he did a careful stand, which, interestingly, in a careful stand in normal MRC, you get a -2 to your piloting roll. But since careful stand isn't turned on, there's no penalty for you to stand and run in this tournament. So if you're going to stand up and be in the same hex, unless you just really like that hex, you should probably try to move and get a TMM. Yeah,
definitely. We don't know. We'll see the piloting report in a little bit here. He may have fallen trying to get up, and then, it looks like he has taken some hits because his armor is slightly down. That could have been from fire earlier, or it could have been from a fall. We'll have to wait and see. Oh, and the tarantula jumps back into a heavy wood, so he's perfectly safe. He can't be seen by the king crab. I don't think he can be seen by the urban mech. Maybe. That might be barely being able to see, but the king crab definitely can't see him. The Raijin can see him, but it's probably got terrible shots going through the forest, especially because it had to move to stand up. And the tarantula definitely jumped, I hope.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where that Venom ends up going, though, because that Venom now has a lot of tasty shots.
Yeah, it could just turn around and jump to the rear of the tarantula if it wants to do some counter jumpy boy harass. Or the trebuchet, or the Centurion.
There he goes. That's Venom to the rear of the Centurion. And also the trebuchet, so he's got options at that point.
Yeah, that is a spicy move there. He can kick the Centurion and shoot the trebuchet in the butt, or shoot the Gallowglass and then kick the Centurion. But you got the rear arc on 2 different mechs. You're more than likely 99% chance you're shooting one of them in the rear.
However, that Gallowlass is short range with its weapons, with no medium range onto the Venom, so he better have gotten a large TMM for that.
He should have jumped for, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, he was in that hex, so 8 would be there. So yeah, he jumped for 8, so that's his full jump. He has the full +4. Or is it +4 or 5? No, it's 4 for 8.
Right, it'll be 3 for moving 7+, and then 1 for jumping, so 4. So that Gallowglass, if he stood still,
No,
and he's
it moved, so it at least walked.
oh right, but I meant even on a bare minimum, that Gallowglass at a piloting 4 or 3, I forget which, you're talking 7s or 8s before that movement modifier. So that Venom's probably okay.
Yeah, he should hopefully be fine. You never know. I mean, the same thing could happen that happened to that raptor earlier, where you become a little pile of debris because somebody hits you on a 10, 11, or 12 when, the odds are in your favor that they won't. But you can't always rely on RNG to do what it's supposed to do and hit the averages.
That's why you need to play lots and lots of games so your bad luck evens out over time.
Yeah, that's definitely true. The more games you play, the more likely you are to actually roll well once in a while. So here we are in the firing phase, line of fire phase, I should say. Tarantula on the Raijin onto the Trebuchet, no surprise there, and Venom into the Centurion, just like we expected. And then the Crab, the Caesar, and the Gallowglass all focusing on that Venom that just exposed itself. They probably have terrible target numbers, but you take those shots anyway.
Well, and that's the thing, though. Hitting on a 9 is like a 27% chance. But if you roll 4 shots to 9s, you're going to hit one of those.
Yeah, exactly. And between all 3 of those mechs, I'm sure he's got quite a few shots that are going the way of the Venom. At that case, it becomes the weight of numbers where something's bound to hit eventually.
I'm more worried, though, about that Centurion because that's the A. It's got ammo on board, and a rear shot there is going to be difficult to swallow if he can get internal.
Does that Centurion have the rear laser like a lot of them do?
I don't know, but I don't see him firing it. But he had the torso twist to get his Raijin as a target, so probably not then.
Gotcha. Either that or the numbers were so bad that it wasn't worth firing. And I think the last thing to fire is the Urban Mech, so we'll have to check the log to see what he does. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and get into it. So there's the movement phase. He did make his piloting check. Careful stand was not on, but he made it with a 4 and decided not to move.
It's all right. Then we got the Caesar taking some pot shots on 12s. It's worth taking, but he missed.
Yeah, there's no reason not to, especially if you have the ammo for it. Centurion firing at the Raijin, nails him for a little bit in the right arm. Medium laser and LRM 10 missed, though. AC 10 coming in clutch. Only needed 8s, which I'm assuming was with precision ammo, because everything else needed 10s and 12s.
And there's that Venom again, getting a medium pulse laser, but it hits the left arm. So as scary as a rear shot is, it is also worth noting you have to roll a 6, 7, or 8 for it to actually do anything different than if you rolled on the front table. So it's not quite as bad as we think.
Yeah, I mean, there's a significant chance that you'll hit the rear armor, but there's also a significant chance that you won't hit the rear armor and you'll hit, the arms or the legs, which happens quite often, especially when you're in the rear arc. Looks like the Crab needed 12s for an ER PPC and whiffs that.
Gallowglass, though, there's those numbers we talked about. Needs 9, rolls 9. ER PPC to the right torso going internal. Large laser needs 9, rolls 10. Right leg goes internal.
Yeah, there's that weight of numbers we were talking about. So he nailed the Venom. Fortunately for KoboldJesus, he didn't double up on any location. So he's still in the fight, but he is close to being in forced withdrawal because he now has, he's got 1 exposed torso and 1 exposed extremity. So he's going to get there eventually if he gets either another torso or another 2 limbs. Not a lot of armor on this little fast bugger. And it looks like the Raijin hits the Trebuchet with 2 medium pulse lasers and gets a crit and goes internal on the right torso, doubling up there with both of those medium pulses. 11 armor remaining, crits out of heatsink. 11 structure remaining. So that Trebuchet is got to be careful. It can be blown away in 1 turn through a Gauss rifle or doubling up with those medium pulse lasers again.
Well, and then we've got the Tarantula. It's got an ER medium to the Raijin. It's adding to it, needs 11, rolls 11. But nothing else to note there. King Crab misses. Trebuchet tries to get the Raijin. It misses. Needing 10s, but, again, worth taking the shot. But I hope he didn't build up too much heat trying to hit on 10s.
And we get to fisticuffs. The Venom kicks the Centurion, but the Centurion barely makes his piloting roll, rolling a 5 and needing a 5.
Let's see with this heat, though, because I'm worried. That Venom, he's up to 10 heat now. The Raijin's up to 5 heat. So we're starting to see some penalties here that really those light mechs can't afford unless the Venom can jump out of there.
Yeah, that Venom's going to have to take cover somewhere because he's only got 12 heat sinks. So if he jumps for 8, he still won't clear all of his heat next turn. Maybe that Urban Mech will finally get into the fight next round. All right, going into round 6, it looks like Matt wins initiative this time, so KoboldJesus will be going first.
Well, let's see. I see some more red pips now. So the Venom, the Trebuchet, and the Centurion all taking some damage that turn.
Yeah, definitely. So some fire was definitely exchanged, some more effective than others, but every mech is still in fighting condition. All right, so KoboldJesus's first move is going to be getting that Urban Mech up 3 hexes like we talked about last round. I mean, there's still some forests in the way, but he's got a decent field of fire, so I'm sure it'll keep Matt a little honest. You don't want another AC-10 flying your way for free.
I'm curious where that Crab and Caesar go, because in my theory, if you want to get that Urban Mech off the field, and it's going to be a relatively easy target, so popping those 2 mechs, which would have crap shots anywhere else on the field, go ahead and nuke that Urban Mech if you can.
Yeah, that's not a bad call. It's going to have almost no TMM unless it jumps. Then it'll have like a 2 maybe. But we don't know if it jumped or... Actually, no, we have to know it ran because it moved up those 3 hexes. So he's only going to have a +1 modifier.
Correct.
All right. Ooh, and Matt moves the Centurion straight up into the Raijin's face. That's a ballsy move. He's in forest cover, but the Raijin and the Venom can just turn around and get back in his rear arc and light him up again. Granted, you would be exposing your rear to the Gallow Glass if you did that, or maybe a side arc at the very least.
Now, these Comstar units are all mixing me up. That Tarantula in the northwest corner is Matt's, correct?
Yeah, I do believe that's Matt's Tarantula. I know it is very hard to tell, but it'll get easier, I guess, as we call them out over time, maybe, hopefully.
All right, the Caesar is going for the shot we mentioned, and I think there's no cover between the Caesar and the Urban Mech there.
No, that's got to be a straight shot. Also to note, the King Crab stood still this turn. So, I mean, I'd be wary of the King Crab either flipping arms or turning around and blasting you in the rear arc with one of those Gauss rifles. Granted, it's minimum range, but I'm sure that's got other weapons that can shoot at you to make your day a very bad day if you get in the rear arc of that King Crab and you're a Tarantula.
Well, not only that, like we talked about, if the King Crab can just sit there and get a really good modifier from anywhere in its front arc, and as long as it stands still, it's going to be +3 to hit, but only +1 to shoot out.
Yeah, that's not a bad deal, if you ask me. All right, next up, it looks like the Crab runs up into the forest here. That's a little surprising. I was expecting him to stay back or move up north and back up that Trebuchet. Maybe cover the rear arc of the Centurion to keep the Venom honest.
Yeah, I agree with you. That does surprise me, but in retrospect, that probably is a really good move because then it can kind of dominate that center there. If you want to shoot it, it's got a high TMM and the woods. It can get a decent shot on the Irby. I'm not hating on the Irby, but it's just right there. But it can also take a pot shot at the Crab if it really wanted to. But I think it's more area denial than anything.
Yeah, that's true. Controlling that middle ground so that the Raijin can't safely back up is also a fair point. Granted, that Venom can jump in his rear arc, but it'll be exposing itself to the Crab and possibly wherever that Trebuchet moves to. Not to mention, you still have to worry about that Gallow Glass sitting up in the back on that hill. You only get whatever forest is in front of you if that Gallow Glass is shooting at you. Oh, and the Tarantula jumps back. So staying safe. I mean, he can still be shot at by the King Crab, but that's probably really high target numbers. And he's probably also got decently high target numbers to shoot at the King Crab.
Right, because that's ER mediums, not pulse lasers. So he might be in medium range. Might I don't think that's short range for an ER medium.
No, that's got to be. No, that's definitely not short. It's got to be minimum medium. Maybe barely long range, but I'm pretty sure it's medium range if it's an ER. All right, next up, looks like the Raijin. Wow, that had to be a jump to get there.
I don't know. The Raijin does have pretty fast movement. He might have been able to run there.
Oh, maybe. I mean, he was right here in front of the Centurion. He could have just whipped around, backed up, and then went around this way. We'll have to look at the target numbers to when he goes to get shot at, but I'm assuming that's a jump. But either way, he is in the rear arc, possibly in medium or short range of that crab. So
Crab's pretty chunky. He'll be all right.
Yeah, the crab is a very well-balanced medium mech coming in at 50 tons. It's one of the classic SLDF designs. So it should be able to survive one turn of getting shot in the rear arc. Maybe if that venom doubles up, it'll be a serious threat and enough to put the crab down or put the serious hurt on it and put it in force withdrawal. But there's also the rear arc of the Centurion that's probably going to be hard to ignore for that venom. The Trebuchet moves down to get into melee range with that Raijin. So assuming that the Trebuchet stays standing at the end of the turn, he will be able to kick the Raijin this turn.
Well, and that Trebuchet is basically a whole load of, this is the SRM-6 Trebuchet, so getting in short range with all those crits on something you've already hit previously makes sense.
Yeah, that's exactly where you want to be with that Trebuchet. So even if he does get that venom in his rear arc, I'd say it's well worth it. You'll be able to dish out more damage to that Raijin than that venom will be able to you. Oh, and there goes the venom. Straight down to the rear of the Trebuchet. So we got the little conga line going here. There's always a conga line, one way or another.
It's just too tempting not to. And plus, the way you play jumpy mechs is you have to constantly be moving. You can't ever stand still. So as tempting as it would be to pound on that Centurion more, you have to get your target numbers up, so he has to move away.
Yeah, definitely. He could have either jumped to the rear of the Trebuchet or the rear of the crab. Either one of those would have been acceptable. Or maybe even the rear of the Gallo Glass, just to put some pressure on him. Speaking of, the Gallo Glass comes down off of his perch, probably to get that venom back into either medium or short range.
I don't know if that was the best move, though, because true, if the Gallo Glass has really high numbers, getting upfield makes sense to reduce them. But then you're losing all that elevation advantage, so now you've got all these woods in between you unless you stand on that level 1 hill there.
Well, where he's at now, he's got line on the Venom, he's got line on the Raijin, he may have line on the Irby if he really wants to shoot at it, but he can't see the King Crab, which I think is fine. You want to save that King Crab for last and have it as, the grand finale of your mech meal here.
Or just talking out loud, we were talking about that King Crab lining up pot shots on the Gallas. Now the King Crab can't do that because there's too many woods in between them, so it might have been a defensive move.
Yeah, definitely. Defensive in nature and also offensive. So a good move all around, if you ask me. Cover yourself from the crab, so he's got not great shots. He's either going to have to shoot at the crab or the Centurion, more than likely. Maybe the Caesar, if the numbers work out that way. But I don't think he'll be shooting at the Trebuchet, and he cannot shoot at the Gallo Glass. Maybe even the Tarantula he'll take some pot shots at, but it's all going to depend on what the numbers look like.
And the good news is MegaMech calculates that for you, so you don't have minutes with your opponent figuring those out.
Exactly. All right, so now we're getting into lines of fire here. The Tarantula deciding not to shoot at the King Crab. That's a lot of hate going for that poor little Irby. The Tarantula, the Crab, the Caesar, all firing at the Irby. And I know that Caesar has a Gauss rifle.
Again, makes sense because if you can pop that mobile AC-10 and that initiative sync, it also puts points on the board, and it just feels nice to get things off, especially since, you've already got the Raptor dead, so blood in the water.
Oh yeah, go for the easy points, reduce their numbers, that way you can focus fire better as the match goes on. Not a bad strategy there. Centurion going at the Venom. Venom, of course, in the rear arc of the Trebuchet. Trebuchet, of course, into the side arc of the Raijin. Gallo Glass is the last unit to fire. More than likely, he's either going to shoot at the Venom or at the Trebuchet. Those are his only shots, as far as I can tell. Maybe the Irby has a long shot just to give it the finger, but I don't think that's worth it.
I hope he's not shooting at the Trebuchet. Isn't that his Trebuchet?
Oh, I'm sorry, the Venom or the Raijin. My bad.
One
of those white
Star
mechs.
blue on blue may happen, but
They all look alike. All right, let's get into the combat log. Nothing movement phase, nothing going on there. Okay, so the King Crab opens up with the Gauss rifles and misses, both with 9s. Tags a Caesar with some LRM fire, but nothing really comes of it. He's a pretty tanky boy there.
That Trebuchet, as we mentioned, it needs to get up there, probably to do a melee kick or something, but needed 9s. It did hit on an SRM-6, but it just kind of sandblasted the side of it. Nothing to write home about.
Yeah, only one of his shots hit of the 5 he threw out there. Next up, the Caesar, throwing the Gauss rifle at the Irby, nails him in the right arm. If I'm not mistaken, that means his AC-10 is gone because that right arm is destroyed.
Yep. Forget if it's in the right or left arm, but visually it looked like it'd be the right.
Yeah, the sprite has it on the right arm, so I'm assuming that's accurate. We'll have to check and see when we get back to the map to see if he's in forced withdrawal. The ERPPC misses, unfortunately, but I'll take the Gauss hit, taking out the right arm any day, and trade it for the ERPPC hit.
Well, let's see if the Raijin, it moved all the way up there out of cover to get a rear shot on the Crab. It does hit the left torso to but missed all its other shots, unfortunately, and now it is very exposed.
Yeah, fortunately for it, though, the Trebuchet missed most of that rebuttal that it had. And the Centurion whiffs across the board on the Venom, eating 9s and 11s. No surprise there. And the Crab whiffs at the Urban Mech, needing 9s. Misses both shots. Uh-oh, what do we have here, though?
We see the Venom. It found the rear of that Trebuchet, though. It found the ammo in the right torso and destroys the Trebuchet.
There's a little deja vu here. This is Matt's Trebuchet. And I recall Matt's had a bit of a exploding problem in some of the other matches we've casted of his.
So, Matt, what we're going to tell you is take all energy weapons and dump all of your ammo on turn 1.
Yeah, man, this is ridiculous. Takes 6 ammo to the right torso rear, destroys the armor, goes internal, still has 10 internal structure remaining, and then, of course, he nails the ammo bin with the crit. He had 2 crit locations, and, of course, one of them is the ammo bin, and the other is entirely blowing off the right torso. So that's... Not only is the mech destroyed, but he's throwing a little insult to injury there by blowing it up at the same time. So he was double dead, because I don't think there's any case in this thing. No, look at that. Takes 170 damage to center torso.
Yeah, there's no case there. These are inner sphere mechs. They live or die by the seat of their pants.
Yep. So the Trebuchet is now down, which means KoboldJesus has tasted blood as well. So now they're both down a mech. Tarantula fires at the Irby, nails him in the left leg. So that's how much damage? 5 damage? That's enough to make it take a PSR. We'll see if he can make it, because he took 15 from the Gauss round earlier.
Well, the Irby misses its LBX-10. I'm going to hope that was cluster munitions if you needed 9s. But then the Gallo-Lass returns and needs 8s, which really isn't bad, so he must have walked. But still, he stripped the armor on an arm for the Spider. Not enough to do anything significant.
Yep, and the Irby makes his piloting check. Needed a 5 there. Base piloting of 4, so if he was a 5 pilot, he would have failed that. So bump your piloting skills up, people. Unless you're a pirate and you can just roll, like a god, and you'll be fine.
If you roll enough 6s, you'll be fine. Statistically, you'll win 72% of the time.
That's right. Numbers game. Looking at the heat scale, the Venom's back down to 8, so it's still taking that movement penalty, but it can shoot just fine. Raijin's up to 7, so he won't be quite as quick unless he's jumping. Everything else is nothing to write home about. Centurion and Crab both floating around at 4, Gallo Glass at 1. Going into round 7, it looks like Matt wins initiative, so KoboldJesus will be forced to move first. Now that the forces are a little bit evened out since that trebuchet was destroyed, it'll be more of a fair movement phase fight. All right, so this is the aftermath of turn 6. So the trebuchet is now a squish mark right here, and it is currently Matt's turn to move. So he can either move the gallows glass up into this forest or up onto this hill so he can start sniping back at that king crab. Maybe scooch the Caesar up or leave him here. Maybe move him up a little bit. Who knows? But I think you definitely don't want to move that centurion, the crab, or the tarantula first right now.
Yeah, realistically, if you're going to overanalyze part of this, is you want the Caesar to go first because he is the most protected from anything other than that Raijin. And if the Raijin did somehow get into the rear arc of the Caesar's got armed weapons. He can turn and shoot at it. But I would definitely say the Caesar is the least inconvenient to move because the Gallilas, you can start making decisions about whether to get on that hill, whether to move up or down to try to hide from fire. But the Caesar's options are so limited, he'd be the one to move first.
Gotcha. That makes sense to me. And what does Matt move? Oh, well, wait a minute. Looks like KoboldJesus moved the urban mech. I thought Matt lost initiative. Maybe Matt. Oh, wait, Matt won initiative. So I guess
Matt won initiative.
Whoops,
Numbers
got
are
that
hard.
wrong. Yep, it's getting late, folks. Sorry about that. So KoboldJesus moves his urban mech up. There's that initiative sync in action right there.
I'm not sure if I like that though, because I would have rather him jump next to the crab, for example. He knows that the urban mech is a priority target. So get him into some cover so he can be a difficult to hit initiative sync and then become a walking AC-10 turret with precision ammo. Or, I don't know about moving him up front like that.
Yeah, at this point, I think he's just throwing the urban mech away. That was a run because he was facing this way before. So he had to turn and then move 2 hexes. That's all 3 of the movement for this poor little urban mech. Which means
bait.
He may have jumped. That could have been a jump. And if he jumped, he at least has a 1 TMM. I mean, if it is bait, it's not great bait. Because the crab, I don't think, can make it the rear arc. The Centurion definitely can't make it to the rear arc. And the Caesar can shoot it from where it was before. Now it's got an even better shot because there's no intervening woods.
Yeah, I'm thinking if you're going to move the urban mech in the open like that, this is the turn you move a lot of things into the open. Because that's the obvious target is the Urbi. So the Raijin, the King Crab, those can all start making moves pretty free of damage.
Yeah, definitely. And in case we missed it, that Centurion did move south, looks like 1 hex. So he is in heavy woods, I do believe, or bare minimum light woods, and he's surrounded by woods on almost all sides. So he's in a fairly defensive position, but he's got literally no TMM.
It's venom bait.
Yeah, definitely venom bait. I can see that gallows glass moving up into that forest and putting the hurt on that venom. All right, it looks like he moves the crab up from his little perch here to the north to cover the rear of the Centurion. And that way the Centurion can cover the rear of the crab too.
That's a good move because that would have been where I'd have moved the venom. And at least this way, well, that's a lot of woods between him and the Urbi. You're not really going to shoot the king crab. I think that was a defensive move, like you said.
Yeah, definitely. He's got time. I mean, he's not necessarily up on points, but the game is still barely halfway through. So he can afford to spend some turns defensively right now, especially because the Venom and the Raijin they're all the way on his side of the map, basically. He's got options, and the Venom and the Raijin are running out of options to where they can go and stay safe.
And that is a good point. Like, we all know those turns where everything collapses into the middle and multiple mechs explode in one turn. That's still just 1 turn out of 15. If you don't have to play that aggressively, let your opponent play that aggressively for a turn. But that's a trap that myself and many others at the MRC will fall for just because we like to blow things up.
Yep, that, and I like to get games over quickly. But, I mean, there's nothing wrong with using all 15 of those turns that you're given.
Especially in a tournament setting.
Most definitely. Oh, and the Raijin could not resist the call of the backside, going straight to the rear of the crab.
We're going to get that put on a sticker for your next business venture there, Justy.
Oh, call of the backside or the siren song of the rear arc? I don't know. Which one sounds better for a bumper sticker?
I don't know, but I bet you'll get lots of hunchback players running towards you.
I bet it'll be popular even among non-Battletech players.
Well, that Raijin, I don't think he moved very fast, to be honest, though. He moved, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hexes? So he's only got a +2 modifier.
I think he moved about 6, so it's still only a +2 unless he jumped. Then he's looking at a +3, and he's in woods.
And the crab, I don't think, has lower arm actuators, but the Centurion could turn, and he's in the front arc.
Yeah, definitely. The Centurion can unload on him with almost everything, except for, I think he can even hit him with stuff in his right arm, too, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct, because he would, if he torso twisted to the southeast, then he would be in the new front arc there.
And that's also kind of asking for that Gallo Glass to walk up and shoot him in the rear arc as well. Granted, the Venom would have clean shots in the Gallo Glass's rear if that were the case, but the Venom would also have to give up TMM if that Gallo Glass gets too close to it.
I'd risk it, so I would take that Gallo Glass, go up the hill to get some elevation, and walk forward another one. And then you'd have that Raijin in your rear arc, I think, as long as he can get to that 3307, I think that's the hex.
Yeah, I think that would still be rear arc. True. Up next, it looks like the Caesar moves up. Okay, that's an interesting move. I'd say another defensive move.
The Caesar's trying to get to those heavy woods so he can start making his way further up the line to pressure the King Crab.
Yeah, I definitely see that there. I mean, he's got 2 defense from that Urban Mech right now, and the King Crab. I don't even think the King Crab can see him. More than likely, it's going to be shooting through that light and through that heavy. So the Caesar should be perfectly safe from the King Crab this turn, which means it's either going to be the regular Crab or the Centurion that are going to get those 2 Gauss rifles coming its way. And you can only dodge Gauss rounds for so long.
And anytime that you need to be worried about defense from an Urban Mech, the Urban Mech is automatically the MVP.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't think he's too concerned about defense from the Urban Mech, but it's just coincidentally there because it's along the same line of fire coming from that King Crab.
Oh no, absolutely. That's just a joke, but the Urban Mech isn't a slouch because an AC-10 round is still enough to blow the armor and go internal on a lot of medium and light mechs.
Not to mention, it can go internal on the head of any mech, and if you get lucky on that crit, that's an instantly dead mech. So it's definitely still a dangerous weapon. Okay, oh wow, and the Venom makes the mad dash for the rear arc of the Centurion. I don't know if that was a run. More than likely, I think that's more than 8 hexes.
Yeah, I think that was a run. Now that you say that.
It could have been a jump, because it is exactly 8 hexes away.
Well, let's see. That Caesar, got to be able to spell Caesar first.
Wait. Yeah, it could have, because that's the hex it started in. So yeah, it could have jumped there, which is perfectly fine, which is in what you want to do if you're a Venom. But he's also up on heat, so more than likely he won't be able to fire more than one of those medium lasers, or medium pulse lasers.
Yeah, and it's the pulse lasers are in the arms, 1 apiece, but so is an ERPPC. So realistically, he'll want to turn and use his right arm to try to hit that spider.
Yeah, definitely. That's probably one of his better shots this turn, because that heavy woods is giving him +2 on the Urban Mech, and I don't think the King Crab is in line of sight because of that light woods intervening.
Correct.
Okay, next up. Oh, what do you know? The Gallo Glass actually didn't move for the rear arc. He moved up into fisticuff range, which I think is even more deadly if you're a little Raijin.
Yeah, a kick from that thing is no joke.
Yeah, especially because he's taken some damage already. And he's going to get shot at this turn by at least 2 mechs, maybe 3 if the Crab can pull off some shenanigans. but that Raijin might go down this turn, and if it does, it's going to be from that kick to the Gallowglass. Or maybe a lucky shot. But my guess is the kick from the Gallowglass is going to take out a leg, or go internal on the leg and make it, and hip it and make it fall. And last up, the Tarantula makes a far jump to another woods, another defensive move, not wanting to run up on that King Crab, but it looks like he'll be in position to run up on the Urban Mech next turn if he wants to.
Now, why do you think he jumped all the way back there?
It's defensive. That's the only thing I could consider. I mean, you want to backstab with the Tarantula, but you can't really backstab the King Crab with this thing. It's just going to flip arms and put you in the ground. He could have gone for the rear arc of the Urban Mech, but then he's sitting right in front of that King Crab, giving him a juicy target.
I'll challenge that with he could flip arms, but those are Gauss rifles with a minimum range.
Yeah, but he also didn't move, so you'll be looking at maybe 8s or 9s.
True. I guess it's, how much, how fortified the coffee was of that tarantula pilot this morning.
Yeah, and not very, considering he jumped. He's still in the rear arc of the King Crab. He's just not going in for the extra kick to try and knock it down. So he's not going to have great numbers to shoot at it, but he will have the defensive modifier to hopefully dodge any shots coming his way, which I don't think there's very many that can come his way. You know what? I just thought of something right now. If the right arm of the Urban Mech got destroyed and the autocannon was in the right arm, shouldn't it have been in force withdrawal?
Because it has no weapons that can do 5 damage. Let's take a look. That's the 63. It's the right arm has the LBX, but it has a small laser and a small pulse laser, which can do 3 and 3 damage. So he can still do 6 damage.
Ah, okay. So he's still a viable Urban Mech, technically. But yeah, not having that AC-10 is going to be a big detriment. I can see why he just threw him out there at this point. Now he's just a bullet catcher. Now it all makes sense.
So that's one of those quirks of the force withdrawal rule where if you can't do 5 damage in your shooting, not physical, but 5 damage in shooting, you're in force withdrawal. But that only applies if you started the game with the ability to do more than 5 damage.
Yeah, if you've got a mech with no weapons over 5 damage, like something with a bunch of machine guns, or just something with or 1 machine gun, because if you have 2, you're above 5 damage. But if you start being able to do less than 5 damage, you're immune to that particular force withdrawal rule. So if you have only 1 small laser and you lose that small laser, oh well, you're in the same boat you were before, technically. All right, well, looking at the firing, the Crab, the Centurion, and the Caesar are all pouring into that Urban Mech again for the second turn in a row. If I'm not mistaken, the King Crab is firing at the Tarantula. Maybe he's got decent numbers, or maybe he's just rolling the bones and hoping he gets lucky to nail that Tarantula. I mean, there is only the woods, the light woods that the Tarantula's in, and it jumped for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it does have the +4 there. I can't imagine that's his easiest shot right now.
I'm thinking 9s is probably what he's got, because fun fact, when you flip your arms and you don't shoot anything else, you get no penalty to shooting in your rear.
Yeah, correct. So it's just as good as firing at anything in his front arc. It's just kind of surprising. But we'll get into the combat log here, and it'll tell us why or what the target number. Oh, holy crap.
Oh my gosh, there it is.
Okay, looks like he needed 7s. He nails him with 1 Gauss round to the right torso, and the damage transfers all the way to destroying the center torso. So 1 Gauss round anywhere on this Tarantula apparently was enough to take it out.
So this is back to, yes, I certainly do hope he fortified his coffee, because that's bad news right there.
Yeah, needing 7s on that King Crab is very surprising. We'll have to double check what the piloting skill of this bad boy was, but I'm assuming it was a 3. I can't imagine it was a 2, because you calculated 9s. If he needed 7s, maybe the Tarantula didn't jump, and maybe it walked, or ran, I should say. Which
either way, he's dead, and he's not coming back this game.
Very true. So that's 1 shot, 1 kill for that King Crab there this turn. Well worth it, if you ask me. I would take those 7s as well. 50-50 to just annihilate the Tarantula. And the return fire, Gauss rifle from the Caesar nails the Irby in the center torso, strips his armor. He's down to 6 internal structure. I believe that puts him in force withdrawal because he's missing a right arm. Oh, wait, maybe not. No, he's only missing an arm and he's exposed in one torso. I don't think he got exposed in the right torso when he lost his right arm.
No, but it looks like he split fire on the spider as well there.
Oh, yeah, we must have missed that. Nails the spider for 1 in the center torso, down to 1 armor there. On
but
nines.
Then Centurion looks like he got some decent hits, but again, on the Urban Mech, not the Raijin that I was hoping for. 5 damage to the right arm, which goes to the right torso. Some SRM hits. That right torso is now exposed with 4 structure remaining.
Now that Urban Mech is in force withdrawal because the center torso and the right torso are both exposed. And the Raijin lights up the King Crab in the rear. But from the rear arc, he hits the left arm, he hits the right leg, and he hits the left arm and the left leg and the right arm with his SRMs. So in the rear arc, doesn't hit the rear torsos at all. You hate to see it.
Oh, and that crab returns fire, whiffs, but the Venom, though, gets a couple shots on the Caesar, but it's just hitting his arms and legs. Nothing particularly fantastic.
Yeah, that's 2 mechs in the rear arc of enemy mechs for KoboldJesus, and they hit nothing but arms and legs, which is unfortunate to say the least. Not to mention, he had to overheat that Venom by quite a bit because he was already running hot, and now he just fired 3 medium pulse lasers. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in shutdown rolls this turn.
Oh, you bought the whole heat scale. You may as well use it.
I guess. That's fair. Gallowglass nails the Raijin with only 1 medium pulse laser, needing 9s and 7s for most of his shots. But there is 0 armor remaining on the right leg, and I do believe that Gallowglass is in the right arc, which means if he lands that kick, I highly doubt that leg is going to survive.
Well, and the Tarantula, it does get the center torso, brings it down from a 15 to an 8 in the rear, but that's all he can do.
Yep, at least he was able to scratch the King Crab just a little before he went out. Urban Mech makes his piloting roll for taking more than 20 damage. Let's get into fisticuffs.
I'm excited about this, and it looks like I should be.
Well, the Raijin missed the kick on the crab. The Centurion punches the Raijin for the left arm for 5 damage. 6 armor remaining in the left arm. The Venom kicks the Caesar and hits. 8 armor remaining in that left leg for the Caesar, so eventually he'll wear him down if he keeps kicking him. The Gallowglass misses, unfortunately, so that Raijin's leg will live another day. Caesar was kicked, makes his piloting roll, but the Gallowglass falls for missing the kick, needing a 5 and rolling a 3. Nothing major, and he makes the seatbelt check, so no piloting hit either. Just a little bit of damage to the leg and left arm.
Unless it's one of those where you absolutely 10,000% cannot take more damage, it is always worth kicking, because what are the odds of you missing a 5+ twice? Well, in Matt's case, it seems like frequently, but it's usually worth taking that kick.
Oh yeah, no matter what, you still got to take it. A 5 is very likely that you'll make it. It's just bad luck if you don't, which tends to happen to people like Matt and myself.
Yeah, your dice rolls, you definitely don't need to be giving dice out at tournaments unless they're to your opponent before the game.
Oh yeah, I'm going to curse everybody's dice by touching them when I'm in NashCon, believe me. So the Venom is up to 10 heat, and he's only got 12 heat sinks, which means next turn he'll likely not be doing very much. But yeah, Tarantula's down for this round. Going into turn number 8, it looks like KoboldJesus and Matt. Nope, Kobold rolled a 7 and Matt rolled a 7. Then they had to roll again. Kobold rolled a 7 and Matt rolled an 11, which means he wins initiative again, 2 turns in a row. See, you can't lose them all.
No, but Matt's starting to run out of mechs, so we need to. I mean, I guess it's even 4-4, but still. Yeah, so I guess it's even 4-4, but still. I'm interested to see that King Crab, I don't want to say do something, but it's way out of position when we get back to the map, and where that spider is going to go cool off, and that Urban Mech moving backwards.
Okay, so here's the aftermath of that last turn. The Urban Mech, like we mentioned earlier, is in force withdrawal. The Galaglass is prone. The Raijin is currently in the Viper's Den, surrounded by 3 mechs. He's definitely going to want to get out of there, or at least get some TMM up somewhere. Venom sitting in the rear arc of the Caesar, and the King Crab sitting in his little forest perch here. And it's on KoboldJesus to make the first move. We can only assume he's going to move that Urban Mech first. And lo and behold, there it goes.
Yeah, if he's in force withdrawal, that's the obvious one to move because your opponent knows he's only got a few options he can move them to.
Yeah, that, and it's out of weapons, realistically. Yes, it has the small laser, but I highly doubt Matt is ever going to get within range of that small laser of that Urban Mech.
Now, if you're a player, you do want to get that guy off the field so you don't lose him, number one, to enemy points. But also, two, you want to lose him slowly. So jump away, get in some cover, jump again if you have to, and then start slow walking it to your home edge. And then you can keep him as an initiative sink in relative cover.
Yeah, you could have jumped him into this forest, give him a +2 TMM. I mean, it's not much, but it's something. Okay, well, that is a ballsy play. So the King Crab stays still, and the Centurion stays still. Right now, the Raijin can't move into his rear arc, but KoboldJesus is running out of mechs to move. He's got to move that Raijin or that Venom next. I'm not sure which one is the play here.
The Venom, move him to a point where he can cool off. So maybe jump him or run him into those woods.
Yeah, get into these heavy woods.
Yeah, so if you can move him somewhere, jump, and then maybe don't shoot weapons where you get a really high TMM, then you can encourage him to be shot at instead of your Urban Mech.
Yeah, that too. All right, so Matt decides to move the Crab up. Now, that's not a move I would have predicted, but I can't say I hate it. Where he's at currently, I'm pretty sure there's a heavy woods and a light woods in between him and that King Crab. So he's safe from those 2 Gauss rifles this turn because the King Crab already moved. But that Raijin is more than likely just going to run straight into his rear arc and keep up the pressure on the backside.
So you're saying the Caesar and the Crab might be doing a pincer movement?
I see what you did there. Yes, unfortunately, you are correct. But the Crab probably will not be firing on that King Crab this turn. No crab on crab hate crimes so far, anyway.
No, but if you can get both of them to pressure the King Crab from the sides and then still have an anchor of sorts with the Galaglass and the Centurion in the middle, you can pretty effectively box that Crab in. Yeah,
you can either try and flush him out of his little hidey hole or force him back.
Now, here's something extremely dirty you can do in Mega Mech, but you can't do on the table, is that Crab's staying there because he has all that wood cover. You're allowed to shoot the heavy woods the Crab is in. So if you've got like 11s or 10s to hit the Crab, maybe you shoot the woods to start taking away his cover, and then all of a sudden the Crab has to move.
Yeah, he can't sit in a sniper nest if there's no nest. He can just be sitting behind level 1 or light woods, which is a lot better than sitting in heavy woods behind light woods.
Or even worse, in rough terrain, which is a penalty to PSRs, when he starts to get swarmed and kicked.
Also very true. That is something to consider if someone wants to sit up and play turret tech.
Yep, thanks, Davian, for teaching that to me, and then kicking my zeal. I didn't like that, but I did learn.
Gotta learn the hard way sometimes. All right, getting into it, it looks like he moves the Raijin up, like we called it, straight into the rear arc of the Crab. The call, the backside is definitely hard to say no to for that Raijin. He's been in rear arcs pretty much the whole game. Unfortunately, he hasn't really gotten any good crits or penetrated the rear armor. He's been hitting arms and legs pretty much all game.
Well, and that Galaglass can just stand if he wants to, and shoot from there or move up a little bit because he's exactly 7 hexes away, which I think is short range for most of his ranged weapons.
Yeah, I mean, he could get up and walk maybe one. That way he maintains 3 woods in front of him, so the king crab can't even choose to shoot at him. He's got to shoot at, it looks like the Centurion or the Caesar, or maybe just the Centurion, depending on where that Caesar goes. And that king crab is still a very, very big threat. I mean, you saw what it did to that tarantula with just one shot. Okay, Caesar scooches up 1 hex. Goes from behind the heavy woods to in the heavy woods. So now the king crab can shoot at it if it chooses to, but that's not going to be very good target numbers for it.
Oh, and that king crab only has 8 rounds of LRM ammo, so it's got enough Gauss rifle ammo for the whole game. But I wonder if he's going to start prioritizing his shots now.
Oh, and it looks like the Galloglass just stood up. Did not walk at all. Just decided to stand like you called earlier.
Oh, that, and I wonder if everyone is so used to careful stand, they forget that they can stand up and move.
Also true. Careful stand, I don't think was on for this tournament.
It's not, but it's a hard habit to break.
Most definitely. I missed it. I was like, come on, where's my +2? I don't want to move anywhere.
Oh, I know what you mean.
And here we are into the firing phase again. Galloglass into the Raijin into the crab, and one of those elongated Congo lines. And look at that. Surprise, surprise. The Venom jumped into the side arc of the Centurion.
Well, melee doesn't cost heat, so he can cool down, do a melee, and still be in the fight of some sort, although it looks like he might have shot something.
He most definitely did. There's definitely a red line going between him and that Centurion. Maybe he's thinking, I've already lost 1 mech, or actually 2, I think, right? Because one. He's only lost the Raptor earlier, and I guess you could say the urban mech is out of the fight because it's got no real weapons. Although it is shooting at the Caesar with its small laser, so he's technically down 2 real units. So maybe he's overheating the Venom, trying to make up for it.
They'll have no fury like an urban mech scorned.
No, we'll see. We'll see right now, getting into the combat log. All right, so there's the piloting check, makes it with a 6. See, you can't fail every 5.
No, but the king crab decides to fire its Gauss rifles, misses, large pulse misses. The only thing that hits is an LRM-15 on the Caesar, which only rolled 5 damage.
Ooh, yeah, not a good turn for the king crab. He's gonna need to nail him with these Gauss rifles if he really wants to make any progress here. That's a tough roll. Missing with 7s on the 8 for that Gauss rifle. Caesar's return fire onto the king crab is just as bad. Needs 10s for the Gauss rifle and the RPPC, and whiffs. And he fires 2 medium pulses at the urban mech, needing 6s, missing with a 5 and a 4. Oh, yeah, Matt definitely doesn't have the luck of the dice on his side.
Well, that's the now Matt's Galloglass here on the Raijin, though, misses everything but a pulse laser, which luckily hits the upper arm. It's not a shoulder, but I think it might still be a penalty to... I hope it's not just punching. I wonder if that's a penalty to shooting.
Oh no, it's definitely a penalty to shooting as well. I'm 90% sure.
Gotcha.
And the Raijin getting into the rear arc of the crab. Okay, I thought Matt had bad luck, but apparently so does KoboldJesus. He needs 6s and misses with 2 of them. 1 medium pulse laser hits the right rear torso of the crab and only strips off the armor. Doesn't go internal. He hits him with 4 missiles on the SRM-6, hits the right torso to go internal, but doesn't get any crits twice, which is unfortunate. Crit's not going his way.
So, see, luck goes both ways. The Centurion, it misses his AC-10 on the Venom, but the medium laser hits, and, crit chance, he blows the leg off. So that Venom is now a, glorified time bomb.
Oh, yeah. It's funny. He had 1 internal structure remaining and decided that the leg needed to come off right then and there.
Couldn't see, that's what you miss when you play in person, where you go, oh man, I needed 1 more hit to blow it off. All right, let me roll my crit. Oh, I blow it off anyway. Sweet.
Yep. That would have been a fun set of rolls there. And looks like the crab fires back and misses on both the Raijin and the Venom. And the Venom misses on the Centurion with one medium pulse laser. Venom automatically falls because he is currently missing a leg, and he takes the pilot hit for it. One internal structure remaining on his right torso, which means any little sneeze to that right torso is going to put him out of his misery. And we get into the Fistica phase. Raijin kicks the crab, 12 armor remaining on the left leg, but the crab stays standing, making his piloting check.
Good job, Crab. See, energy weapons are the way to go.
Oh, yeah. And the Venom is sitting at 10 heat and on the floor. Let's take a look at what the map looks like.
I want to see that Centurion, and I want to see him back up by, like, 1 and just kick that Venom.
Yeah, that would not be a bad play. I think that'd be great. Or that Gallowglass walk up for 2 and then kick the Venom. That might be... Have them both turn around and just kick him to death real quick. Because that Venom is basically stuck in that hex because he's missing a leg. I don't think there's a way for him to move out currently.
So, that is true. The Raijin has expressed a strong interest in the crab. The King Crab is going to have terrible numbers to hit that gaggle of wood melee. And the Urban Mech is out of the fight. So, realistically... they could go finish off that Venom. Caesar can go take that Urban Mech off the field. And then they only have 2 more mechs to worry about.
Yeah, and that we just saw that King Crab fire at that Caesar last turn. It's not worth it. You need 8s to hit that Caesar. And a Gauss rifle in any one location, I don't think is going to give you anything valuable. Unless you nail him in the head, of course.
Correct.
All right, let's get into the movement here. King Crab once again stands still, and the Gallowglass does move up to go for the kick. So looking to put that Venom out of his misery. So one thing to note, I don't think the Venom is missing any of its arms, so it should still be able to prop itself and fire all of his medium pulse lasers this turn.
True, and that is a threat to the Centurion, but he's going to have a penalty to shoot. And the Centurion's in woods, so you're already at +3 before you even get to the piloting skill.
True. The Venom should be able to twist just a little bit by 1. So maybe if the Centurion stays still, he can get shots on him. Or if he doesn't, he can turn and maybe get the Gallowglass. We'll have to see.
And 8 heat, I don't know if he'll be able to turn.
Oh, yeah, also true. Probably has 0 movement. You're right. Okay.
Yep.
Zoomed in a little bit because the Centurion moves away from the Venom, giving him slightly worse shots. Nothing to write home about there, but definitely a defensive move if you ask me.
Even more defensive would have been to move where the Raijin just moved to, because I guess you're saving yourself from the Raijin, but the Venom can still fire forward.
Yeah, one thing to note, Matt saved the crab for last to move, which means the Raijin could not get in the rear arc of that crab again. Wise decision there, Matt. Well played. You can trade the fresh rear armor of the Gallowglass for the pitted rear armor of the crab.
Well, do you think he's going to go for the King Crab again like his Tarantula did?
You know, I kind of want to see him turn around and chase that Raijin. Going for the King Crab right now, while the rest of your units are busy shooting at something else, is just asking to get pummeled into the ground without any backup. I mean, maybe... the crab's pretty fast. Maybe he can get under the guns of the Gauss rifle and get to here. But I don't know if that's worth it, though. That King Crab has other weaponry besides those Gauss rifles.
True. But they're all torso mounted.
Yeah, that, and you're also asking to get kicked for 40 damage.
Mm.
And it looks like the crab backs up for 1.
Oh, it can't be seen from there because of the King Crab's nest.
Yep, I don't think it could have been seen where it was before, but he's backing up for 1, maybe to get maybe he's getting rid of that forest in his way, which I guess is a wash because you would have been at 0. And well, no, I take that
He
back.
had
It's
to
not a
turn
wash.
anyway.
Yeah, he had to turn to get all of his weapons to bear. So it's worth it to go back one to get out of the forest there. That way you get a clean shot. You're trading 1 for 1, but all of your weapons are now firing. So we'll go ahead and look at the firing lines real quick, because it's getting to that point of the game where there's not too many moves to make and not too many surprises to be had.
So it looks like the obvious ones: Crab to Raijin, Gowlass to Venom. It does look like the Centurion and the Caesar are both going after the King Crab, who's returning to the Caesar, and something is being shot at the Urban Mech.
Probably those medium pulse lasers that it shot last round as well.
Probably because they wouldn't be able to reach the Crab, and again, if you can take out that Urby, you take out an Init Sync.
Yeah, and if you got the heat to spare, there's no reason not to shoot it. Okay, getting into the firing. Ooh, there we go. King Crab nails the Caesar finally with one of those Gauss rifles on 8s. But, like I said, 15 damage to the left torso strips the armor off perfectly. Does not go internal. And everything else misses, unfortunately.
Oh, in return, the Caesar hits the King Crab with a Gauss rifle. So there's just hypersonic bullets flying everywhere.
Yeah, so you see the difference, though, is the Caesar nailed the King Crab with the Gauss rifle, and the King Crab still has 15 armor remaining, whereas the Caesar has none. So trading
Correct.
blows with the King Crab is only going to go your way for so long by yourself. You need backup to make the trades worth it.
Because you need to force those PSRs as well.
Yeah, so right now there's only 15 damage hitting that King Crab because he missed with everything else, including the 2 medium pulses at the Urban Mech.
Well, so far, we don't know what that Centurion did, but first the Raijin.
Yeah, the Raijin unloads into the rear arc of the Galloglass, hitting the left rear torso, bringing it down to 1 armor, but also hitting the right arm and the left leg. Again, going for the extremities with this Raijin.
That's just unfortunate. There's been so many non-torso hits in the rear of this game so far on both sides.
Yeah, definitely. Especially that Raijin. I think he's hit torsos maybe 3 times the whole game on out of 20 shots. And the Crab for Matt nails the Raijin in the center torso and the left arm. Goes internal, but no crit on the left arm of that Raijin.
The Venom, though, see, I told you he could still fire forward, and he took out the AC-10 of the Centurion.
Also hitting the right arm twice from the rear arc with those medium pulse lasers. So the Venom, still a credible threat on the floor. Now you're down an AC-10 just because you couldn't get out of the firing arc. Or not couldn't, but chose not to get out of the firing arc of the Venom.
He needed 8s, so that is pretty unlucky.
Yeah, but to be fair, KoboldJesus has been missing quite a bit. So finally some hits going his way.
Centurion whiffs it, though. Gowlass.
Oh, there we go. Nails the King Crab with an ERPPC. So that's going to force a piloting check, at least.
True. And a small laser hitting the Venom. But, doesn't do much.
Hey, what do you know? What do we say about piloting checks? King Crab needs a 5, rolls a 3, and falls for taking barely over 20 damage.
Falls onto its rear, too, so it's got more damage to that rear torso right, so it's getting itself lined up for an ambush.
Yeah, definitely. 5 armor remaining. That Crab is pretty maneuverable. I don't know if it'll be able to get to the rear arc of the King Crab in 1 turn, but maybe in 2 turns it can make it there and start unloading hell onto his rear arc.
Raijin stood standing, though, so that's good for him.
Yep. Raijin does kick the Galloglass. 1 armor remaining on that left leg for the Galloglass. But the Galloglass destroys the left arm of the Venom and gets a crit on the engine. So more than likely that Venom's going to be real toasty and unable to shoot anything next turn effectively.
How's he still alive, though? I'm even more surprised by that.
Yeah, no kidding. That was a 14 damage kick. Actually, more than that, I think. Yeah, 14 damage to the left arm and then 11 transferred to the left torso. So a 27 damage kick. And somehow the Venom's still alive, using every single point of armor on that bad boy. So Venom is most definitely into shutdown rolls and also ammo explosion rolls, which I don't think it has any ammo, if I'm not mistaken.
So that's a quirk of Mega Mech. You still roll for the ammo explosion whether or not you have ammo. So even if you failed it, it would say, luckily there was no ammo on board. So there's probably some very specific mechanic that requires you to roll for ammo explosions, even if there is none.
Gotcha. Well, either way, he does not shut down, which is great for him. But, I mean, at 19 heat, I doubt he'll be doing very much next turn at all. And that's it for round 9. Getting into turn number 10, looks like KoboldJesus wins the initiative with boxcars, so maybe a little luck going his way now.
He's going to need it. He's in pretty bad position right now.
All right, getting into turn 10, here's the aftermath. So, ooh, that's not a good look for the King Crab. He is on the floor, facing the wrong direction. He's going to have to make a piloting check to stand back up. The Venom is currently in force withdrawal, but I don't think it's going to be able to stand, so that's not a big deal. The Urban Mech is still in force withdrawal, so I'm assuming he'll be either backpedaling or jumping backwards now, especially since I'm 90% sure he's out of range of all of his weapons and will not be able to get back in range because he cannot move forward at all.
So before they start moving, if you were KoboldJesus, how would you play this?
I think you got to move the Urban Mech just to get it out of the way, force him to move something, and then you move the Venom. I'm sorry, of course, because, I mean, that's it. The Venom's the only thing, can't go anywhere, so get that out of the way. So now Matt's moved 2 of his mechs, actually 3, because he has to move first. And then you stand with the Crab, turn him back around, and then you save the Raijin for last and go for either the rear arc of the Crab, depending on where it moves, or you stay in that rear arc of the Gallowglass. Or, depending on where that Centurion moves, if he gets away from the cover fire from the Gallowglass and the Crab and the Caesar, you get back in the rear arc of the Centurion. So you basically need to keep that Raijin flexible and exploit any holes or rear arcs that might come your way. Even though he's been hitting arms and legs from the rear arcs, eventually he'll get through something.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. So that Crab to Caesar, because the left torso is exposed, and it's probably an XL engine, and if it's not, you can at least blow the torso off to get points for putting it in force withdrawal.
Definitely.
The Raijin to either of those medium mechs, and then the Gallowglass is just going to have to be a threat for a bit because you don't have enough meat on the field to take it out. Or it's not, the risk isn't worth the trade versus those other points you can score. So this is kind of you can still turn it around, but you start prioritizing points over victory.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with the Gallowglass, I do believe this was a stand-up fight, so victory is going for points this time around. But I think the Gallowglass sits there, doesn't move, and just puts that Venom out of his misery. At least
I meant that more in terms of you're not going to table your opponent, so score as many points as you can.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you there. That King Crab likely isn't going down anytime soon. Although there is still 5 turns.
Oh, would you look at that?
Okay, so the Gallowglass moves up into the front of the Venom. The Crab moves up into the rear of the King Crab. I don't think that's quite rear. Oh, no, that's got to be rear arc, I think. Maybe side.
That's not rear arc. That's going to be side because he's on the line.
That's right. It's on the line, so it's definitely side. But more importantly, the Raijin moved up to the rear of the Crab, trying to put that Crab in the ground, getting into the rear torso there. Yeah, because he is exposed, if I remember correctly.
So if I was the King Crab, I would actually shoot the Centurion this turn, or possibly the Crab, depending on what your target numbers are for that large pulse. Because that Centurion, if I remember right, has taken quite a few hits.
I think most of those hits were in the rear arc, though, if I remember correctly, from that Raijin earlier. So the front armor is still pristine, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep.
Okay. It looks like that's all the movement for the turn. We're getting into firing, I guess.
Interesting. The King Crab didn't torso. Okay, if it torso twisted, it would have not been able to shoot its
No,
full complement of weapons, it looks like.
no, you can see right here.
Yeah, he has a little chevron saying that he flipped arms.
Yep, so he's shooting probably both of those Gauss rifles at the crab. That's just inside minimum range, so we'll have a +1 penalty. But I think you take that shot. More than likely, that's going to be your best shot. Especially, well, I don't know. The crab's not been hit in the front. All the damage is in the rear. Maybe you do put the fire on the Caesar. You've at least opened up that left torso. If you double up on that left torso with another Gauss rifle, it's bound to put it in the ground. Or at bare minimum, force withdrawal if it's got a regular fusion engine.
It is hard to ignore the pressure of that crab, though.
Yeah, no kidding. He's going to be giving up rear arc eventually. That crab's going to outmaneuver your king crab, no matter what you do now, because it's within 2 hexes of you. So he's trying to prevent that, I guess.
The only good news is because that crab is so close this turn, next turn it can't hit a super high TMM and be in the rear arc.
Very true.
So you at least have that going for you of if it's going to be shot at, this is the turn where the crab has the highest modifier.
Definitely. Whoops, we weren't supposed to see that yet. Okay, it looks like we'll get into the firing for this turn because the movement was over so quickly. The king crab falls once, takes 5 to the right and center torso. Not a big deal. Still over 38 armor, or 38 armor in the center and 25 on the right. So falls, but no harm, no foul, or barely harm, barely a foul, I should say.
Well, the bigger part of it is that's a 3-5 crab, I think. He needed 2 movement to stand, fall, 2 movement to stand again. So he's at a +2 as if he ran and he didn't go anywhere.
Also true. So his targeting numbers aren't going to be very good. So let's go ahead and get into the firing. Caesar fires at the king crab, misses the Gauss rifle with a 9. Nails him with a 9 with the ERPPC. That center torso drops from 38 to 28 armor now. Chipping away at it, slowly but surely. Medium pulse laser does nail the urban mech and destroys the right torso. So he was in force withdrawal before, now he's in force withdrawal a little bit more. Only 4 internal structure remaining on that urban mech now. And he lost a jump jet.
Well, we've got the crab. Looks like he's both of those Gauss rifles hit. He opened up the left torso and took out a ERPPC on the right arm.
Yeah, he got a crit on the Guardian ECM suite on the king crab, or on the regular crab, I should say, and that left torso.
I see it was the left torso is actually a through armor crit. Sorry.
Oh, there's 1 armor remaining. Yeah, good call. But the right arm is only 7 internal structure remaining. The crab fires back at the king crab. 28 armor left in the left leg, 19 armor left in the left arm. Still a long way to go until you get in that rear arc, where there's only 5 armor remaining in that right torso.
Well, and that Raijin decides to pump some streak too. It gets an engine crit on the crab, and left arm is hit by a pulse laser. So that crab's going to be hot, but he's not in force withdrawal yet.
No, not quite. 1 engine hit is not enough to do it. Centurion firing back at the Raijin, nails him in the right torso for 5 damage. Still 8 armor remaining. So the Raijin's still in the fight, chasing that rear arc, which it has been doing all game. The Venom somehow is able to fire. Needs 9s with those medium pulse lasers and nails the right leg of the Gallowglass. Too bad he didn't hit the left leg. There was only 1 armor left there.
How angry of a pilot do you have to be on the ground and still firing weapons? Like, no.
Well, you're a Venom pilot, so you got to be pretty angry in general to be a Venom pilot.
That's true.
Speaking of which, the Gallowglass fires a couple of things at the Raijin, but whiffs. But more importantly, he finally puts down that Venom with medium pulse lasers. 2 of them nail him and destroy his engine, surprisingly. Doesn't even destroy the mech outright. Still had 10 internal structure remaining. Oh, down to 8 by the time it's all said and done. But that's, if I'm not mistaken, 1, 2, maybe that's not all in the same turn. I was looking to see if it was 4 engine crits to see if it has a chance to stack pull.
Well, it wouldn't because Stack Pull is a TAC Ops rule and not turned on in this tournament.
Oh, I thought he turned it on for funsies, but I guess not.
No, so the crab ended up making its roll on a 6. The king crab falls again, and at this point, he's taken almost half the damage he's taken, and is from just falling on himself.
More importantly, he lands on his head. Needs a consciousness check because he takes the damage this time around, not making the seatbelt check. But he needs a 3 and rolls a 3 to stay conscious, cutting it close there. But the king crab is still in the fight, just on the floor. All right, so at the end of the turn, heat phase. Since that venom's gone, everything else is looking decent on heat, except for the Raijin, who's up to 7. So he's going to have a bit of a penalty for movement there. And going into turn number 11, it looks like Matt wins, so KoboldJesus will need to move first. Okay, so here's the aftermath of the last round. Venom is now a squish here. King Crab is not on the floor, even though it should be. This is the first move. Some of the first moves have already happened. Sorry, we're fast forwarding a little bit here because it's getting to the end of the game and the moves start kind of playing themselves. So the king crab stands, the urban mech scooches back just a little bit. The centurion stands still from the looks of it, as does the Caesar.
Does the Caesar really need to move though? Because he's got really good shot on the king crab for, medium range, and the centurion probably is just going to turn and pot shot that urban mech, if not the king crab.
I wouldn't say it's got great shots. It's been rolling at 8s, which anything over 7 I consider not a good shot. But 8s, 9s, and 10s, I'll take them. Better than nothing.
Yep.
It could move up.
3 for the pilot, 2 for the range. You're at 5s. Intervening light 6. He's in heavy wood 7, 8.
Yep. Maybe move up to here. That way you get into short range and all you have to deal with is that heavy woods, especially now since that crab is in short range and there's another credible threat. I think right now you just bum rush the crab.
Yep.
You run in with the centurion, which he did not do. You run in with the gallowglass and you run in with the crab and move up with the Caesar. Tighten that noose around this kraken of a crab.
Agreed.
Getting into the end of the movement phase, it looks like the Raijin ran straight down in a surprising move to put fire on the Caesar. I guess the left torso is exposed in the Caesar, so go for it. But I don't know. That crab didn't move, so I'm not sure the order here. Maybe the Raijin moved and the crab decided to stay still. Either way, standing still in front of a king crab is a ballsy ass move if you're a regular crab.
Well, is he going for the numbers? I don't know. I tend to agree with you because he can just torso twist, and now you've got a large pulse laser also hitting you, versus if you got in his rear, you're not dealing with that large pulse laser.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's no reason not to get in the rear arc of that king crab, especially because the king crab already moved and you still had a chance to move your crab. Granted, the Raijin would have gotten your rear arc, but I think it's worth it to get in the rear armor of the king crab. And maybe the urban mech would be able to fire some small lasers at you, but so be it. I think you take that trade because the crab's gonna get traded right now, more than likely. And this is probably going to be not as good of a trade because you're shooting at the front arc of that king crab. Well, let's go ahead and get into the combat phase because something tells me this is going to be over pretty soon. There's not too many moves left to make.
I see red already. The king crab, Gauss rifle, destroys the right arm, blows off the right arm. Gauss rifle, hits right leg, large pulse, left arm. Streak 2. Hits and takes out a PPC. That's a lot of hate. The crab is still standing, but he's now armless.
Yeah, that is not a good look. The crab surprisingly survived the storm of damage coming from the king crab. But to be fair, he hit arms and legs pretty much the entire time. If you would have nailed him in the torsos, I don't think that crab would have been in this fight anymore. Again, hitting the arm and leg locations. KoboldJesus You need to, tell your pilots to aim for center of mass, not the extremities.
Let's see. Then we got the Caesar. It's got a Gauss rifle misses, but PPC and a large pulse hit the King Crab and the Raijin, respectively.
Yep, that's 0 armor remaining on the left torso of the Raijin. Opened up, I think, in maybe 2 locations. Centurion fires at the King Crab, but whiffs both shots with the medium laser and the LRM-10, needing 11s and 9s. Not great shots. Raijin pumps some damage into the Caesar. 3 medium pulse lasers and the SRM-6 all connect, needing 5s and 7s, except for 1 streak SRM-2 that happened to miss. But he does hit the the exposed left torso of that Caesar, but doesn't get any crits if there was anything in there to be critted. So I think the Gambit was not worth it there. Did not pull through.
Well,
he's one step closer to destroying the Caesar, but he didn't take it out this turn, which I think is what he was hoping for. I mean, granted, everybody's hoping to instantly kill a mech, but he definitely needs to start reducing these numbers.
And, he's had a lot of luck knocking over that King Crab multiple times. So that Crab, at least it does another 20 plus damage on the King Crab. So, I guess in total he's done 20 plus damage. So he's forced to PSR, but he's still just scraping that front armor.
Yeah, definitely. On the bright side for KoboldJesus, though, the Caesar does fall and crits a foot actuator on the left leg because there's internal. 12 internal structure remaining on that leg. He makes a seatbelt check, though, so no consciousness roll. The Crab stays standing after taking a lot of damage, as does the King Crab this turn. Does not fall. Crab's sitting at 9 heat. He does have an engine crit, if I remember correctly. So riding that heat scale slightly high there. He's going to have a firing penalty next turn. And getting into round number 12, it looks like Matt wins initiative. So KoboldJesus will be moving first again. All right, here's the aftermath. Caesar's prone down here on the south. Raijin over here in front of it. Nothing else spectacular happened last turn. Urban Mech needs to scooch back this turn again. Let's go ahead and get into the movement real quick.
Yeah, I'm worried here that the Raijin isn't going to be able to crit anything else before getting destroyed or putting it in force withdrawal. So, we'll see. That Centurion, though, looks like he's bum rushing to the middle of the field.
Yeah, I kind of would have liked to see him do that last turn. The Urban Mech scooches up, and the Centurion runs up with him. Now you're starting to tighten that noose on that King Crab.
So here's a thought. That King Crab is probably going to go after the regular Crab. The Raijin might try to go after the Caesar. So the Centurion is just one more option, but something of Matt's is probably going to explode this turn. You may as well throw everything out there rather than the obvious choice.
Yeah, and that's kind of exactly what he just did. He's moving up with the Gallo Glass right next to the Centurion. The Raijin moves in to take that rear shot on the already exposed rear armor of the Centurion, which he did very early in the game. The Caesar's still currently prone, hasn't moved yet. We'll see if he stands up in a minute here. Crab surprisingly runs up on the Urban Mech. I'm not sure if he's just trying to get him out of the game to get rid of that initiative sink instead of going for the rear arc of the King Crab. Kind of a head scratcher there, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's a tough one. The Raijin is going to get hit by that Gaulas, I think. And he's relatively exposed to the Caesar, but if he can take out the Centurion and the King Crab can arm flip, we talked about how he's going to have a low TMM. If the King Crab can arm flip and take out the Crab, that instantly makes this a lot closer.
Yeah, that Centurion and Crab can go poof real quick. And then you're down to 1-on-2 or 2-on-2 basically, because the Urban Mech's mostly out of the fight. So lines of fire, King Crab firing at the Gallo Glass. I don't like that. You got the King Crab you have the Crab right behind the King Crab. Go for that. Or the Caesar that's already exposed. I don't think you can start on a fresh mech. You need to put mechs in the ground. Well, let's see if it pays off for him. Centurion also firing at that urban mech. Well, so the king crab fires both Gauss rifles, nails the Gallowglass with them, one in the right torso, one in the right leg. So that's a piloting check and a half there.
Maybe he was going after the points of the Gallowglass was higher than the points on the crab.
Very true. The battle value of the mech does matter in this tournament that you destroy. Large pulse hits, streak SRM2 hits, but the second streak SRM2 misses. So he goes internal on the left leg, doesn't get any crits. That's a lot of damage on that Gallowglass, but I think that damage would have been better spent elsewhere, destroying a mech outright. Imagine if both those hit the crab, or hit the Centurion, or the Caesar. Getting into it, speaking of the Caesar fires at the Raijin and destroys his right torso with that Gauss rifle, finally landing a hit.
Doesn't do much of anything, though, because it does destroy the arm, but it doesn't blow off the torso, meaning he is not in force withdrawal.
Correct. He does have 10 internal structure remaining on the right torso, so it is exposed. I do believe the Raijin is not in force withdrawal, so he is still very dangerous. He misses with everything else, though, after that Gauss rifle, but I think that's a fair trade. Speaking of the Raijin, unloads into the Centurion, needs 5s across the board, except for those SRM6s, which need 7s. He misses a 5 on the medium pulse laser, rolling below par. Hits the left torso rear, hits the left arm, hits the right leg twice with missiles, and the right torso once. Finally goes internal with one of those SRMs in the left torso of the Centurion, but doesn't get anything. Goes internal on the left arm of the Centurion as well. Still no crits. He's getting very, very unlucky with these crit rolls.
We got the Centurion gets an LRM-10, and that's all she wrote on the Urban Mech, who is still not dead. And the Urban Mech still can shoot some lasers and do some crit seeking on the crab, but ends up only hitting the center torso.
Yeah, chipping away slowly, 3 damage at a time. Speaking of which, I didn't see any fire for the crab. Oh, well, we'll get into that in a second. The Gallowglass fires back at the king crab and a little bit at the Raijin with 9s across the board, missing every single shot. So a complete airball. Centurion makes a piloting check for taking more than 20 damage. Unfortunately, the Gallowglass does not. He falls, takes 5 to the right leg, and crits out a foot actuator. So he's not looking too good there. And he takes more to the right leg. He's down to 9 internal structure on that leg. He does make his seatbelt check, though. Oh, holy shit. I didn't even notice that. Let's get into the fisticuff phase.
So you see the Raijin does a kick to the left leg and goes internal. And in return, the Urban Mech is able to somehow kick the crab.
Needs a 5, rolls a 9. That's a really low to hit number for that kick.
That's why he didn't fire anything. That crab was charging.
Yep, not the move I would have expected. Needs an 8, rolls a 6, so he whiffs the charge. That crab basically did nothing this turn, unfortunately.
Well, if you look at it this way, if he thought he could hit that crab or that Urban Mech, what's he going to do? Hit it with this small and a medium laser, or for 8 damage, or he could do like a bunch of roll, on the full body table for 5 damages.
I guess that's fair, but I think I would have gone for the kick. That way you can knock over that Urban Mech, hopefully, and maybe go internal.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not saying I disagree with you. That might have been where he was going as, well, if I can roll an 8, I can just plow through that thing.
Yeah, but the Centurion and the crab both stay standing because they were both kicked this turn. Raijin up to 8 heat, King Crab at 4, Gallowglass at 5. Nothing to write home about. Raijin's going to have a penalty on shots. Initiative for turn number 13. KoboldJesus wins an 8 versus a 7, so Matt will have to move first.
Well, that would be good for KoboldJesus, because at this point, where you torso twist that King Crab is going to matter a lot.
Oh, well, that's good news for KoboldJesus. Both the Centurion and the crab are now in force withdrawal. I guess kicking that leg opened up a third limb, so the crab's in force withdrawal, and opening up that leg on the Centurion put him in force withdrawal as well.
That's why you never give up. So that king crab has really good shots on the Galalas or the Caesar, and you still have the Raijin who can do whatever he wants to either try to finish off one of those crippled mechs or get the Caesar to start walking backwards.
Yeah, and the Caesar did not move this turn, so it's sitting there, an easy shot for that king crab and the Raijin maybe. Next up, it looks like the urban mech moves to the rear of the crab, which has not moved yet. And the Raijin goes to the rear of the Caesar, which I think it's got more rear armor than front armor by now. Maybe you go for the side arc instead.
Oh, hold on. Can we see where that urban mech was before he moved?
Uh-oh, hang on. Urban mech moved up and to the left one. So he's maintaining force withdrawal rules.
Cool. So he is still... I was wondering if I was like, he kicked. I thought he was in the front, but I forgot he was displaced. So, yeah. The crab was displaced, which is what was throwing me off.
Gotcha. And whoops, I think I just closed the combat log on accident.
It's all good. Yep, so it looks like it was the crab was displaced, which is what was throwing me off there.
Yeah, that's what it was. The crab hasn't moved yet. It's just one over from where it was before. Because it got displaced from missing the charge.
Oh, looks like it's just the crustaceans are the last to move.
Okay, so getting into a lot of movement going on here. As we mentioned, the urban mech jumped up. The Raijin came down from behind the Centurion. The Centurion moved back at least one hex. The Raijin's now in the rear arc of the Caesar. Galloglass is standing up in no man's land where you do not want to be. Things are looking up for KoboldJesus now. The King Crab is definitely in a target-rich environment. The King Crab and the Crab still need to move. I'm not entirely sure whose turn it is. I think KoboldJesus did win initiative, so he will be moving the King Crab last. Oh, and there's the Crab going straight into the rear arc of the King Crab, and the King Crab has not moved yet.
So if you were the King Crab pilot, what would you have done? Because I would have been tempted just to stand there, because what's the crab going to do? Shoot my almost full rear or try to kick me? Possibly just rotate south?
Yeah, considering the crab only has 2 weapons left that do 3 damage, I think you just sit there and eat it. Yeah, you're going to get kicked, but oh well. Either you sit there and eat it or you move one up so that the crab has to shoot through those heavy woods. But then the Galloglass gets free shots on you. Maybe not free, but close to free.
Well, the Caesar's got a really good shot on it now because it, stood up, so it's +1. The crab didn't get anything. But that Caesar, 1 for walking, 3 for pilot, and then 2 for medium range. It's got 6s to hit that King Crab at the moment.
Yeah, that is not good. I don't like that. Moving forward to get away from the crab and get maybe better shots on the Galloglass or the Centurion might have been the play there. But coming out of the woods entirely, I don't think is the move. So here's the lines of fire, just like you said. And surprisingly, it looks like the King Crab is going to be changing fire with the Caesar at long range. Centurion going to the rear of the Irby, which probably has more rear armor now than it does front. Galloglass firing at the Raijin going into the rear of the Caesar, and Caesar shooting something back at the Raijin. Must have something rear mounted. Or maybe it turned. Well, it definitely didn't torso twist, so it must be rear mounted, I guess. And of course, the crab firing what few weapons it has left into the King Crab. Let's get into the combat log and see how this scrum shakes out. Oh, okay, here we go. Let's see what we have here. I see red, pirate.
Well, yep, so the Caesar, Gauss rifle, left torso, ERPPC. It hits the Gauss rifle itself, which is 2 ammo explosions. 2 pilot checks, rather. So that King Crab has blacked out and took an engine hit doing so.
Yeah, that's 3 pilot hits now. So he needs a 5 on the first one and a 7 on the next one. Rolls 6 both times, makes the first but fails the second. Unfortunate. That is game changing right there.
Yep. So yeah, that's game.
Yeah, because now you're on 7s. You're going to be immobile next turn. I think that's all she wrote. And he takes an engine crit and a crit on the LRM 15.
All right. So the Centurion misses, but you see what I see what that crab did in return.
Oh, yeah. Gauss rifle nails the Caesar, takes out the left torso, limb blown off, critical hit. Left torso roll is no effect. Destroyed by engine destruction. So the Caesar is dead due to the fire from the King Crab. Finally, nailing that left torso again with a Gauss rifle.
Yeah, there's nothing else to say on that Caesar. The crab does a little damage to the left torso and the right torso, and the Raijin looks like it does a little damage to the back of the Caesar. Oh, it is literally game. The Gallas ERPPC hits the right torso on the Raijin.
Ooh, section destroyed, Raijin destroyed by engine destruction. Holy crap. So they're trading 2 mechs there and a half because now that King Crab is unconscious. So that's definitely game. Urban Mech gets another crit on the Crab's engine, but it's already in forced withdrawal. King Crab automatically falls because he's unconscious. Takes another pilot hit because you can't avoid it. So now the consciousness check is up to like a 9 or something at 4 hits. Maybe it's a 10. Either way, it's very unlikely that King Crab is going to wake up if he even survives the next turn, which it's initiative for turn number 14. KoboldJesus wins with an 11, but I don't think that's going to do him any good. All he has left is the Urban Mech and the King Crab.
Oh, the Urban Mech's got to retreat. You know, it would be extremely cheeky to run up what you can, shoot the Urban Mech, and just make assumptions that you can kick the... Oh, well, what can he run up with?
He can only run up with the Galloglass. The Crab and the Centurion have to retreat.
So what you do is you back up the Centurion so that you are moving backwards, but you have an LRM 10, I guess, that can hit the King Crab. Galloglass goes up there and tries to blow out the Urban Mech and just hopes the King Crab stays unconscious next turn.
Oh, yeah, it's very likely that the King Crab will stay unconscious with 4 piloting hits. The Crab moves back 1 hex. The Centurion looks like it moves back 1 hex. The Urban Mech moves forward 1 hex.
With its rear exposed.
Yep, and the Galloglass moves up probably for as much as it can, and is going to unload on something. We'll take a look at it in the combat log. No need to see the lines.
Yeah, I don't think the Galloglass can kill the King Crab with shooting only, but let's see.
Maybe he can. Maybe. Oh, definitely can. Okay. Weapons fire for the Crab nails the King Crab. 7 internal structure remaining on the left torso. 4 internal structure remaining on the left torso. Looks like he's aiming. Maybe? Yeah, hit aimed location, left torso. So he hit the first one on the left torso. Second one hits the left arm, so it doesn't hit the aimed location, but it transfers to the left torso anyway. So he got his wish. 4 internal structure remaining. I think it's got an XL engine. Maybe.
Well, but that won't matter because the Galloglass is also targeting the left torso, it looks like. And I was wondering, why is he doing that? But there's ammo in that left torso.
Oh no. Nails the left torso, takes 10 damage. So the left torso is destroyed, and he gets 2 crits on a roll of 11. 1 hits the engine, and what does the second one hit?
It hits that ammo, and that's an extra 2 damage. That's 6 piloting hits total. Pilot is dead. You've got a lot of salvage there.
Yep, that King Crab is now out of the game. Only thing left is the Urban Mech and force withdrawal. Wow, that came down to the wire there. I think that's pretty much it. Initiative for turn number 15. I don't think there's much to write home about.
They already
they call it
there. Yeah.
Yep, there it is. Victory. Team 2 has achieved all required victory conditions. So Matt picks up the win with his Comstar list and 2 units in forced withdrawal and 1 unit not in forced withdrawal left on the board, taking out the King Crab by killing the pilot. I think that's the first time I've seen somebody kill the pilot through actual pilot hits and not just destroying the cockpit or the head outright.
Yeah, that was a slugfest, but as we said, there's some kind of tit for tat, and then 2 or 3 turns where it just collapses and there's a lot of death.
Oh yeah, that's generally how scrums like this work. I know I mentioned earlier that the king crab trading fire with the Caesar. Eventually, the king crab's going to hit more because it's throwing more dice at the Caesar, and lo and behold, it came true. Nailed the Caesar again in that left torso and took him out. Granted, the king crab went down eventually just through sheer weight of numbers. But I think losing that raptor early on in the match definitely hurt KoboldJesus. He wasn't expecting to lose it outright on that first real turn of combat.
I'd agree. And then also the Centurion and the Crab should have gone down much earlier on Matt's side. It's just, you couldn't get them down, so they could continue to be a threat and do damage. But if he was somehow able to take them down like that trebuchet, then that could have turned a lot of things as well.
Yeah, so many shots from the rear arc hit arms and legs. It was kind of insane. The numbers just should not have gone that way, but they did. And Matt was able to profit from it. The rear arc is very tempting to go for, but by no means is it a guarantee that you'll hit those rear center, left, and right torsos. So yeah, you can bring your backstabbers and hope you hit those torsos, but it's not going to work out for you every game. So
I can't appreciate somebody that brings an urban mech to a match, though. That is pretty awesome, just as is, instead of like the typical Stinger or Locust,
Oh yeah, I agree with you there. I was actually considering a Comstar list with an urban mech, but people started talking trash about my boy, the Behemoth, so I had to change up my list. So this is the final round. 2 mechs and force withdrawal for Matt, like we said. Gallo Glass banged up, but victorious nonetheless. So any comments on the match overall? Anything you'd like to point out about the lists or any decisions that were made during this match, Pirate?
So one thing to keep in mind is this is a 4-game tournament, not just a one and done. So you could say, yep, Matt's the victor here, and that's true. But Kobold held him to a pretty high standard, so he didn't really lose that many points, which will help him in the subsequent 3 rounds. So even if you lose a game just by the skin of your teeth, you're still holding a line so that when you play subsequent games, you're not starting out at a disadvantage as if you got tabled, for example.
Yeah, I mean, it may have been a loss, but it was still a good performance. His list performed pretty well, if you ask me. He had 2 backstabbers with the Venom and the Raijin that did their jobs. They just couldn't hit the right targets on the mechs that they did land shots on. And the King Crab sat in his little sniper nest and shot every single turn. He just didn't hit as often as he maybe should have. The Urban Mech didn't really do that much, if you ask me. I mean, granted, I don't think it's meant to do all that much, and it got critted out from its big gun very early. So it's not really its fault.
I'd agree with that. And I'd also say that was a perfect sniper nest for a long-range shooter like the King Crab. But it's an inner sphere assault mech with lots of armor. Maybe it would have been better for it to run up and soak some hits so that Matt was less tempted to shoot at the Raijin.
Yeah, I agree completely. You've got a big slab of meat. Use it. Don't just sit there in a sniper nest with your biggest mech. That's one of the problems I see some players make. They bring a real big, expensive, heavy or assault mech with large pulse lasers or Gauss rifles like this Crab, and they sit it in the back while their jumpy mechs get torn to shreds because they're getting all the fire, and eventually your opponent's going to hit that 9, 10, 11, or 12 and put that Venom or Locust or Stinger or whatever it is down.
And it's easy for us to say that in hindsight because we've all done the same thing. But yeah, that's the only real criticism that I could probably point out at the end of the game is a little too much protection on a mech that you already purchased protection for.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the list is very well balanced, if you ask me. It's a good list. It's just, tactically or strategically, he may be shooting himself in the foot by spending so much on his sniper mech.
Yeah, I'm a fan of lists like that where you have a disparity. Like you have a couple long range mechs, you have some front range harassers. So the list itself was decent, and the same with Matt. I did appreciate that he had the crab being upfront and speedy. He's got the Centurion is just a great trooper mech all around. The Caesar and the Gaulas, I wasn't the biggest fans of, but they did what they needed to do, and there may have been MUL restrictions forcing those choices, or maybe he just likes to run those mechs, you know? They obviously performed, just there was a bigger disparity between the mech selections in Kobold's list. So overall, I kind of preferred Kobold's list here.
Yeah, Kobold's list suits my style a bit better. I'd say Matt's list was more of a gun line list where you just slowly move up the map and fire at everything that you can as you move up, which is definitely a viable strategy. I mean, it won the day here. The Gallo Glass definitely it's got those medium pulse lasers, so it's not afraid to close in and get in the scrum. And it's got those longer range weapons and that, ER large and ER PPC, I think it had. Or am I thinking of the crab? They're all starting to blend together now.
Yeah, the Gallo last definitely had an ER PPC and a large. The crab, I think, was just two ER PPCs.
That's right. I remember looking at that earlier saying, wow, why does this thing have two ER PPCs? But, I mean, he's got enough firepower at long range that he can slowly walk up the map, unloading every turn. And then once little jumpy boys close the distance, he can bring those medium pulse lasers and other shorter range weapons to bear. I mean, everything's got range, I think, on his list. The crab has long range. The Gallaglass has long range. The Centurion has long range. Even the Caesar has long range. The Trebuchet, I think, is the only thing that has short range with all those SRMs, and that's more of like a bodyguard for your gun line there. So, I mean, overall, I think the lists were solid. They're definitely different styles of play, but it was definitely a good match, if you ask me. This was very close, and it came down to the wire on those last couple of turns. Lucky crit here or there could have made the match go the other way just as easily.
Oh yeah, I mean that King Crab blacking out. If he hadn't fallen, if he hadn't blacked out, there's a pretty good chance that he could have traded with the Gaulas, for example.
Oh yeah, and if he stays alive for another turn or two, he could have probably wiped out that crab or the Centurion, or maybe even put the Gallaglass into force withdrawal too, or outright kill it with those Gauss rifles.
But overall, I think this was a very even match, and I think, like you mentioned, it could have gone either way. So this was a good expo and a good start.
Yeah, definitely. Well played, both players, KoboldJesus and Matt. Very good game, very entertaining to watch. Very positional too. All right, any closing thoughts, Pirate, or are we going to call it here?
Last closing thought is I can't wait to see more of these and more events at the MRC. So I hope everybody joins our Discord and gets in on some action soon. Even if you're just new to Mega Mech and you don't want to dive in completely, we have a lot of Mega Mech games going on, just friendly pickups. Love to see more people there.
Yeah, and a lot of us are willing to help you learn Mega Mech and learn Battletech in general. If you want help or maybe need help with list building or whatever it may be, the community's definitely there for any new players or returning players that want to get in on the action. Also, coming up this month, I think by the time this video will go out, it'll be a little late to start for Solaris 7, but there is a tournament probably going on right now as you're listening to this. Solaris 7 Summer. It's going to be Solaris themed, of course, which is Late Republic. So we'll be covering some of those matches in the future for sure. So get ready for some of that action. All right. Any shout outs you want to throw in there, Pirate?
Besides our two players tonight, KoboldJesus, it's been great seeing you join us recently and getting some games in. Matt E, it's always a pleasure watching your games. If we ever meet in person, I'm going to buy you a set of dice. Hopefully they've been blessed with some sort of, holy water from a telephone company. And, look forward to seeing more people soon.
Yeah, douse them in, electrical cords or something. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us tonight. I'd like to thank MRC, High Command, and all the players in the community for supporting us and, helping the community grow. Thank you and good night.